good morning and welcome back to the Berrco Show. Hope you've had a good week, and there was certainly plenty of great fixtures last weekend to be caught up on, which we'll get to shortly. As you can see, I've had a haircut, finally managed to get to the barber. Shout out to Nicholas Anthony Hairdressers for that, thank you very much, it's looking great. So over the next 3 hours I've got a really exciting show for you. We're going to be covering all sorts, and part of the index for the show. We normally will start most days with looking at the first couple of days' play, as well as a little bit of game understanding for those younger members in the audience, or anyone that's new to cricket that fancies giving it a go. We're going to hear from our women's correspondent, Carly O'Dell. She's been interviewing this week and has spoken to one of the professional players, so it'll be great to hear from her a bit later on today. We're also going to have a look at another national county story. I've got someone who's a bit different for you, who was contracted at Surrey, has played for 3 national counties, is a high performance coach in his own right, and has toured the world with the MCC playing cricket. He's a very, very good player and has some fantastic insights, especially to batting, when you hear him later on. We've got some cricket history with our friend Ian Perry, down on his canal boat, looking brilliant, and we've got some tales around game-changing women and actually how much input they had into the game, as well as a moment in time for you, just a little bite-sized pocket piece of history from a game between New Zealand and South Africa in the 1950s. It's certainly well worth a listen. We've got our resident kick specialist, George Fox, and he's got some different ideas for you to consider when you're approaching your cricket kit and actually starting to I guess, get off his chest a lot of the ideas he's had running in his mind for a long time. Hopefully we'll get some pushback as well with George's ideas, and if anybody does want to have a go or write in or make anything for George, the email is cricket@berrco.co.uk. We have got a really fascinating special for you today, certainly highlighting someone who I think most of the cricketing world will never have seen before or know about, and it's a really exciting interview that really humbled me, and I'm just so grateful for his time, and I think you'll really enjoy it later on in the show. And of course we have the long-awaited return of recreational cricket today. Lots of ECB Premier Leagues around the country will be starting, and we'll have a look at some of those scores later on in the show, as well as really pleased to have the game back, and finally allowing the rest of the game outside of the professional game to get out on the pitch and play and enjoy themselves, especially while the weather's looking as good as it is at the moment. So that rounds up what today's show will entail. We've got a really heavily packed few hours for you. Stay with us, and I hope it's really enjoyable for you. Just by way of start. So in Group 1, Essex played Worcester and won the toss. They elected to bat first. 213. 3 wickets for Charlie Morris, including the wicket of Alistair Cook, so I'm sure he'll have. 3 wickets also to Barnard and to D'Oliveira, so they were shared out between the Worcestershire bowling attack. In reply, Worcestershire were 475 all out. Jake Libby, 180 not out. It's a great effort that. And Barnard, 128 as well. Sam Cook taking 4 wickets. 6 in their second innings, 28 for 1. They reached 2 before the game was considered a draw. Cook the only batter to fall to Jack Leach, and the game was a draw. The next game in Group 2 was Nottinghamshire versus Durham. The toss was won by Nottinghamshire. They put Durham into bat, achieved 330 all out. Lees 58, Beddingham 57, Rain 59, and the wickets were shared with Fletcher getting 3. The wickets were shared for Nottinghamshire with Fletcher getting 3 wickets. Nottinghamshire in reply, 267 all out. Tom Moores 96 not out, Hutton 51, and remember last week we were chatting about how dangerous that partnership could be. It looks as though that really did save the Nottinghamshire innings, and credit to them. Matt Salisbury 4 and Bryden Cast 4 wickets apiece for. In reply, 332 for 4 declared, so often sides will declare in order to set up a total that they believe they could bowl out their opponents without them reaching it in the time left in the game. So Durham 332 for 4 declared, Beddingham 180 not out, Eckersley 113 not out. Some great innings there, and Eckersley formerly of Leicestershire, I believe. Brett Hutton with 2 out of the 4 wickets. And Nottinghamshire in reply 298 for 5, Slater 73, James 79 not out, Mullaney 69, and 2 apiece for Rushworth and Salisbury. The game was ended in a draw, although this is my pick of Group 1's first round of fixtures. It was a fairly tight game with 97 runs in the balance and 5 wickets in hand for Nottingham. Derbyshire in response, 244 all out, with Critchley again scoring and getting 83, and you can hear me a little bit better now. Sorry if the sound was troubling you there. The show must go on. So yes, Critchley 83, Hostin 78, Hannon Dolby taking 5 wickets, and Warwickshire in reply with 7 for no loss before the game was considered a draw. That concludes Group 1, and as you can see, Durham and Essex, Nottinghamshire all sitting on 13 points, Warwickshire and Worcester sitting on 12, and Derby on 11. Moving across to Group 2. Interestingly, in Group 2, every single game had a result, hence the scattering or the range of the scores that are there. First game to look at here was Leicestershire versus Hampshire. It was going to be a tall ask for Leicestershire. Hampshire are a very strong side. The toss was won by Hampshire. They elected to bat and scored 612 for 5. Allsop with 119. Vince with 231. And Dawson with 152, so great achievements there. And 2 wickets for veteran Chris Wright for Leicestershire. Leicestershire in response were 202 all out. Swindle showing some resistance, getting a resilient 59. Abbott and Crane taking 3 wickets apiece. Hampshire enforced the follow-on as Leicestershire didn't get close enough to their first score. So they've asked Leicestershire to bat again. They believe they can take the 10 wickets before Leicestershire get up to that 612 total. So following on, Leicester were 305 all out. Dearden 62, Hill 65, Wright 41 not out. Wickets were shared with Crane picking up 3 wickets. Hampshire won by an innings and 105 runs. And a comprehensive win for them. The next game was Gloucestershire versus Surrey. The toss was won by Gloucestershire, who elected to insert Surrey to bat. So they achieved 222 all out, with Amla top scoring, the South African international, for 58, and Josh Shaw taking 4 wickets for Gloucester in that innings. Gloucestershire in reply got 326 all out. Half centuries for the top three, Bracey, Dent and Lace, set that total up. It's always nice when your top three get runs and get in. Reece Topley, with his return back after injury a few years ago, took 5 wickets. Surrey in reply, 333 all out, 133 for England wicketkeeper when Josh Butler's not there, Ben Stokes, and Burns and Clark both got 50s. Matt Taylor with 4 wickets for Gloucestershire. Into the final innings, so the 4th innings of the game, Gloucestershire chased the score 2 down, so they achieved 229 runs for 2 wickets. Dent with a 91 not out, steering that, and Van Buren with 110. Gloucestershire won by 8 wickets, and it's my pick of the group. I think that's I think a lot of people wouldn't have necessarily been backing Gloucestershire to win that fixture, and that's a really big win considering the likes of Hashim Amla, Ollie Pope, Ben Stokes, it's Hampshire, isn't it? Some really big names that reside down at Surrey. On to the final game in Group 2, Middlesex versus Somerset. The toss was won by Somerset. They put Middlesex into bat, who achieved 313 all out. Sam Robson, 165. Lewis Gregory, 5 wickets for Somerset. Somerset in reply achieved 172 all out. Merchant DeLange getting a late order 50, and he does normally get some really useful runs down there. I remember him getting a lot of runs against Northampton late on for Glamorgan a couple of years ago. It was some phenomenal hitting. Tim Murtagh with 4 wickets for Middlesex in that innings. In reply, in the second innings, Middlesex 143 all out. They seem to have a bit of a collapse, I think, letting Somerset back into the game. Eskenazi 53, although there was 3 wickets apiece for Somerset bowlers Craig Overton, Josh Davey and Jack Leach. Somerset in response achieved the score set. They got 285 for 6. Tom Abel, their captain, steering them with top scoring with 84. Barlett 76. Gregory 62 not out. Barlett 76 not out as well. Bamber with 3 wickets out of those 6, but Somerset claimed that victory by 4 wickets. As you can see from the group, Hampshire sit top with 24 points, and the reason why they're probably so much higher is you get more points based on how you win a fixture. I think the fact that they won by an innings and 105 runs is ultimately why they sit so high up there. Gloucester, they're on 13 points, Somerset on 11, Middlesex 6, Surrey 4, and Leicester at the bottom of the table currently with 2 points. Moving on to Group 3. Lancashire versus Sussex. Sussex won the toss. Sussex were 301 all out. Tom Haynes 155. And Tom Bailey with the bulk of the wickets there for Lancashire. Lancashire in reply, 407 all out. Dane Villas with 189 and 3 wickets for Sean Hunt for Sussex. Sussex in response were 103 for 2. Aaron Thomas 46 not out. Both wickets were to Saqib Mahmood. The game was a draw. On to Northamptonshire versus Kent. The toss was won by Northamptonshire. They asked Kent to bat. Kent achieved 455 all out with another 100. I think it was his 35th first class 100 for Darren Stevens, 116 not out. And Nathan Buck for Northamptonshire picking up 3 wickets. Northamptonshire in reply, 434 all out. Ricardo Vasconcelos, 154. Rob Keogh, 124. And Harry Podmore for Kent picking up 4 wickets. Over to the Kent second innings, it was 42 for 1, with Bell Drummond being the 1 wicket to fall before the game was considered a draw. On to our final game of last week, Yorkshire versus Glamorgan. The toss was won by Yorkshire, who asked Glamorgan to bat. They achieved 330 all out, Van der Gooten 85 not out, and Ben Code for Yorkshire taking 4 wickets. Yorkshire in reply, 193 all out. Lyth the only real scorer there with 52, and the wickets were spread amongst the Glamorgan bowlers. A good team effort there. In reply, Glamorgan in their second innings achieved 241 for 4 declared. Billy Root 110 not out, and Chris Cook 102. Again, Ben Code with 3 wickets. He takes 7 for the match. It's a great effort. for the second innings. Yorkshire, in reply to that, into the fourth innings, achieved 223 for 4. Live again win the runs, 115, although he was out. It's my pick of Group 3 for the games. I think 155 runs with 6 wickets in hand for Yorkshire, that would have been very interesting. It would have been interesting to see if the pitch had started to deteriorate, or the second new ball that's normally provided after a certain number of overs, would have changed that game. Just a couple of quirks for the round. Coming back to me. Yorkshire game was actually drawn and halted after snow stopped play. I believe there are some pictures on social media of snow just covering the whole of Headingley. Ben Duckett for Nottinghamshire becoming a complete all-rounder. He's obviously known for wicket-keeping, but it seems he returned figures of 3 overs, none for 17 at the back end of one of the innings for Nottinghamshire. Hampshire's controversial stumping. There's been a lot of talk around why this was given out. It was Hassan Azad, who opens the batting for Leicestershire, was given out when the keeper had the ball in one hand and took the bails off with the other hand. Technically, you should have the ball in your hand, or the hand that touches the stump should have the ball in it. If you don't, or the bails have been broken, you can always take a stump out of the ground physically. And finally, and I'm sure a lot of you will have seen this one on social media, was Billy Root getting his 100 off brother Joe Root. Was very interesting. That it was a nice moment, and I think his brother congratulated him accordingly, which was a nice touch from the England Test captain. Okay, so as I spoke about earlier in the index, each week I'm going to be looking to get some game understanding modules out to you. I think it's very important that we make clear that here at Berrco that cricket is a simple game at its rudimental core. It's been heavily overcomplicated, and for any of those people that have never played or want to play, or young people that want to give it a go, there's really nothing stopping you. And these are a couple of clips that I think will really help you engage and understand how to go about starting your cricket journey. And I think it's really important to remember with that it is as simple as watching the ball and hitting the ball. Lots of people will try and talk to you about where you put your hands and where you put your feet and lots of other areas, but they are important, but not at the moment. All you have to do is watch the ball and hit it. And that is the beginning of any batter or, a batter's career. That is how you start. And it is as simple as that. And that can be done anywhere. I mean, I remember breaking some windows, at my family home, the shed windows, one in the front room, obviously getting in trouble doing it, but that's how you start playing. The next clip's just a little bit about bowling, which again can be really heavily overcomplicated. Try not to overthink it would be my advice, and see if you can replicate what I've got for you here. So yeah, it's as simple as that. Just remember to lock in that bowling arm, step forward, roll your arms over and across your body. Obviously you want to let go of the ball, but other than that, there's really not a lot more to it. It's just around trial and error of when you release the ball and seeing how it feels for you. Find your own way in how to deliver the ball. I mean, for those of you that have never seen it, it might be worth looking up a player called Lasith Malinga. No one ever told him how to bowl. He found his own way, and he was one of the most effective bowlers in the world. So, there is no right way of necessarily doing it, but they are the starting blocks. they will allow you to begin the game. The other thing I would put to you around those videos is have a go, and by all means, please, Instagram them in to me. Let's have a look. Let's see what you've got. I'm happy to get them up on the show. Whoever wants to have a go, whether they drag their parents outside and they have a go, whether it's a mate who's never played before, whatever it is, just go and have a go at it. And I can't stress it enough that once you start getting into it, you will realise that there's so much to cricket that you can enjoy. I have one other challenge for you this week. I thought it might be quite poignant, I suppose, considering we're looking at the very beginning stages of cricket and how you learn about the game. So I attempted, not too bad, I don't think it was, but my attempt at explaining cricket in a minute, I think it can be done better, in my opinion, and I would love to lie that responsibility with you, the viewers, and see if anyone can do it better. Not only will I send you a prize, but you'll also get put up on the website, berrco.co.uk, as the explainer of cricket in a minute, and I will air you on the show as well. And I really put it to you, anybody, if you can manage it, cricket in a minute, preferably in one take, if you're really that good and that confident, I really put it to you. Let me know, see how you go. This is my effort now. Okay, cricket in a minute. 11 players per team, 10 wickets per team, as batters bat in pairs. The aim of the game is to score more runs than your opponent in the allocated overs or before your wickets run out. The game is scored in the following order: runs, wickets, overs. Runs come as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. 1, 2 and 3 are physically run. 4s are when the ball travels over the boundary having touched the ground first. 6s are when the ball travels over the boundary having not touched the ground. And 5s are typically given as penalty runs. Wickets are typically given as caught, run out, stumped, bowled and leg before wicket. Remember to appeal. Overs typically dictate the length of the match and are comprised of 6 legal deliveries from the same end. There is no one way to play, so get playing and start asking questions about the most documented sport in the world. So that's my effort, and we'll see how it goes, and hopefully anybody who can do it better, please do. We really want to have cricket as simple as possible. Anyway, enough on what happened last week. Now on to this week and the state of play of the games around the country. There's some really exciting matches this week, actually, and it's certainly engaging stuff. So on to Group 1. This week we see Derbyshire play against Worcester. Worcester won the toss and inserted Derbyshire, who achieved 319 not out. Godalming 50, Deploy 98, Critchley again in the runs, 109, and Hostin again in the runs with 83 not out. 4 wickets to the Worcestershire bowler Ed Barnard. Worcestershire in reply, Tom Fell 69, Ricky Vessels again in the runs, 60, with Critchley, who can't seem to stay out of the games at the moment, 3 wickets for him. Worcestershire currently trailed Derbyshire by 147 runs with 3 wickets remaining. On to game 2, Essex versus Durham. Essex won the toss and elected to bat. They fell short. They had 96 all out, which was quite a surprise, I think, for a lot of the viewers, and certainly the lowest first innings score of the round. Lawrence was the only notable scorer at 32. The wickets were shared out between the Durham bowlers, with Rushworth and Cast picking up 3 apiece. Durham in reply achieved 259 all out, Borthwick with 100, and that must be a welcome return to the man who spent most of his career at Durham but had recently just come back from Surrey. Pointer 52 not out, and 5 wickets to Simon Harmer for the Essex bowler. He also, the amount of people that want him to play for England, I think, is off the chart. Second innings for Essex, after getting Durham all out, they currently are 208 for 6. Dan Lawrence again in the runs with 76. Walter with 49 not out, who's still at the crease, and the wickets shared between the Durham bowlers. Essex currently lead Durham by 45 runs with 4 wickets remaining. there could well be a result in that game today, and I'll make some predictions at lunchtime regarding that. Moving on to the third game of Group 1, Nottinghamshire versus Warwickshire. Nottinghamshire won the toss. They elected to bat. They were 273 all out, thanks mainly to a late order innings from Patterson White of 73 not out, who I think again rescued that innings for Nottinghamshire. Will Rhodes for Warwickshire picking up 4 wickets. In reply, Warwickshire were 201 for 9. Hayne 72. Broad with 3 wickets, Patterson with 3 wickets. The reason why they're not considered all out is Don Sibley, the England Test opening batsman, had to retire hurt. I'm unsure on his injury at the moment, but that's why it's for 9. They are considered to have finished their innings, but it will only be 9 as Nottinghamshire only took 9 wickets technically. In Nottinghamshire's second innings, Hassab Hamid, those of you remember him playing for England a few years ago, and I'm sure he'd love to get back into that Test squad. 51 not out, and Clark with 50 not out. Stone 1 and Rhodes 1. So they're currently Nottinghamshire lead Warwickshire by 200 runs with 8 wickets remaining. Could be quite an interesting final day to play that this afternoon. Maybe Nottinghamshire might want to look to put Warwickshire in this evening and see if they can get an early breakthrough and then put some pressure on them for the last day, depending on how far ahead they can get. On to Group 2, Hampshire versus Middlesex. Hampshire won the toss. They're 319 all out. Holland 64, North East 63, Abbott 58. Stephen Finn for Middlesex picking up 4 wickets. In reply, Middlesex for 79 all out. And Nathan Sauter with 24 not out is the only sort of notable contribution. Mohammad Abbas, the Pakistani Test opening bowler, taking 6 wickets and returning figures of 11 overs, 6 maidens, and maidens when no runs are scored off your over. 11 runs in total scored off his 11 overs, 6 wickets with an economy rate of 1. For those who don't know about the economy rate, it's simply the number of runs scored off how many overs you bowled. So he bowled 11 overs and only had 11 runs scored off them. So 11 divided by 11, 1. Second innings for Hampshire, Ian Holland's on 90 not out, and Sam Northeast is on 99 not out. Both of them overnight, so I'm sure they've had, quite an early rise this morning. Hopefully, chomping to get back out there and finish off get those hundreds up. Toby Rowland-Jones, notably bowling 8 overs in that innings at Hampshire, going an economy rate of 0.88, so he must be bowling really, really well. On to the second game of the group, Somerset versus Gloucestershire. Gloucestershire won the toss. They inserted Somerset, who achieved 312 all out. Davis 87, Craig Overton 54, and 3 wickets apiece for Payne, Matt Taylor and Higgins. Gloucestershire in reply are 301 for 8. Dent 50, Bracey 118, and M. Taylor is on 53 not out overnight. Craig Overton with 3 wickets, and the rest of them shared between the Gloucestershire bowlers. On to the final game of Group 2, Surrey versus Leicestershire. Leicestershire won the toss, elected to bat. Azad with 55, Evans 138, and that was an opening stand of 130 runs, which is a great effort for Leicestershire, coming off the back of quite a tough defeat against Hampshire, so all credit to them. 70 for Hill, 3 wickets apiece for Clark and Verdi for the Surrey bowlers. In reply, Surrey are currently 253 for 3. Pope has 92, Folkes 68, and 2 wickets for Griffiths. Be interesting to see how they go. I'm sure Surrey will look to put a lead on. That game to me looks like it's heading towards a draw, as long as there's no collapse for the Leicestershire top order in their second innings. On to Group 3, Glamorgan versus Sussex. Sussex won the toss. They inserted Glamorgan to bat, who achieved 285 all out. Lloyd 84, Carlson 127 not out, and 4 wickets for the Sussex bowler Ollie Robinson. In reply, Sussex are 481 for 9. Thomason 67, Hayne 87, Van Zyl 113, Garton 97, and Robinson's 67 not out. 3 wickets for Hogan. Sussex lead Glamorgan by 196 runs with 1 wicket remaining. The next game in Group 3, Kent versus Yorkshire. Yorkshire won the toss and elected to bat. Lyth again with runs as they achieved 379 all out. Lyth 97, Brook 54. Lots of starts for that Yorkshire batting lineup, lots of 20s and 30s. I'm sure the reports for them, will be pretty obvious that someone, if you get a start, you've got to keep going. I imagine that that's what they will be looking to do now that they've started their second innings. 4 wickets, notably for Darren Stevens in that innings for Kent. Just can't seem to keep him out the game. Kent's reply, 265 for 9. Again, Darren Stevens, 52. And 3 wickets apiece for Oliver and Patterson, the Yorkshire bowlers. Yorkshire lead Kent by 120 runs with 10 wickets remaining. It'll be interesting to see how Yorkshire set up that game. And by that, I mean how many runs ahead they want to be before they declare and have the opportunity to bowl out Kent in the second innings. The final game of the round is Lancashire versus Northamptonshire. Lancashire won the toss and have elected to bat. They got 305 all out. Davis 57, Bohannon 68. Tom Taylor taking 4 and Stephen Kerrigan taking 4 wickets apiece for Northamptonshire. Northamptonshire reply achieved 177 all out. Rossington showing a lot of resilience as he normally does in that middle order with 49. I believe it was an excellent delivery by Parkinson to get him out, and it normally has to be once he gets over 30 or 40 and gets going into his innings. Kerrigan 45 not out. 3 wickets apiece for Bailey and Parkinson for the Lancashire bowlers. They are currently 60 not out in their second innings. Lancashire lead Northamptonshire by 188 runs with 10 wickets remaining. So it'll be interesting to see how those fixtures pan out this afternoon, and I'll make sure that you stay up to date with their scores as we progress. Just quickly looking now that play has started at 11 o'clock, just wanted to see if there'd been any update on the Hampshire scores for them. But no, it hasn't. No. Right, so without further ado, let's get you into our first segment of the day. Carly's been busy this week interviewing a few people, and let's see what she's got for you this week.
Hello, I have Joe Gardner with me today. Joe, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. My relationship with Northamptonshire has come about since I was kind of in the pathway at, 12 years old. Came all the way through the pathway, under 13s, 15s, 17s, all the way through to the seniors. Before I moved across to Warwickshire, and then that was kind of while I was at Loughborough Uni as well. And then on the back of that, played a little bit in the Super League. And last summer, I was lucky enough to be awarded a full-time contract with the Sunrisers, one of the new women's domestic regions, which kind of cover Middlesex, Essex, Northants, as well as some of the minor counties as well. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Brilliant. And obviously in terms of that full-time contract that you can obviously call playing cricket a profession, how have things changed for you kind of on the day-to-day, but then also in terms of pre-season and the season?
Yeah, I guess it just gives you that extra time and dedication to the sport, I guess, that it's been there in the past, obviously, but I guess just getting paid for it now, which is great. In terms of like the programme and stuff that we had during the winter, it wasn't too dissimilar from kind of the MCCU programme that we had at Loughborough at uni. So it's not too dissimilar in terms of workload and stuff there. It's just more, I guess, more just focused, and I think as a whole, it's a lot more serious, if that makes sense. Kind of the other 40 girls across the country, I guess it's all pretty new for all of us, and it should just raise the standard of competition going into this season, because we've had that greater contact time across S&C, cricket, the mental side of the game, tactics, all things like that. So it's been a great kind of first pre-season, and we've actually got our first warm-up game tomorrow, so it should be good.
Brilliant. And I guess touching on that, can you kind of expand a little bit more on anything that wasn't there prior but now is there for you as players now that you've got those contracts?
Yeah, so I guess just the access to kind of the coaches all year round is certainly one thing. I know for me personally, kind of the general squad contact time that you get at, say, county level would only be kind of one session a week, which obviously if you want to pursue the game as a career, then you probably are going to need a little bit more contact time in order to do that. So we've got that, obviously squad training sessions, one-to-ones as well, incorporated in that. And yeah, obviously not having to pursue a full-time job on the side, which has been a thing in the past in terms of the development of women's cricket. There's a few of us that like us 5 that are contracted at Sunrisers are doing, so the other girls are doing some stuff for Middlesex and I'm doing some stuff for Northants, kind of 10 hours a week to kind of fit in with our full-time contracts, which is great and provides that balance, to be honest.
In terms of obviously like you say, the access to coaching from a kind of personal point of view, do you feel like that's helped your game come along and help your improvement over the winter?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our head coach is Trevor Griffin, who's obviously had quite a lot of success in certainly T20 franchise tournaments, winning the Super League in England twice, I think, with Western Storm, and reaching final day all 4 years of that competition. And he's just won the WBBL out in Australia with Sydney Thunder. So he obviously knows how to craft a team and pull them together to get performances. So hopefully, looking forward to this season, that's something that we can build on. And also in terms of kind of it's a new environment for me. Like going into the season last year, I'd kind of only played with a couple of the girls, so it was quite refreshing in the sense that it was away from the norm of what I had been exposed to over the kind of 3 or 4 years previous. So yeah, I think kind of the refreshing new ideas that working with different coaches can bring has been great.
And what are you kind of hoping for looking into the season, obviously with the preparations behind you? What are you looking for and aiming for?
I think first and foremost we need to probably get our first win on the board, which is something that we couldn't quite achieve last year. So yeah, I think once we first get that first win under our belts, then hopefully we'll have a bit of momentum. But obviously I'd love to make finals day for both the Rachel Hayhoe Flint 50 over competition as well as the T20s as well. So yeah, kind of I think the 50 over competition there's a few games at the start of the season, and then there's some T20s, and then finishes off with the 50 over again after the 100. So it should work quite nicely.
What's your standard week going to look like going into the season?
Yeah, so for instance, a kind of normal week for us would be Monday would be a day off, having played kind of county cricket on a Sunday. Potentially, it's definitely the start of the season. If not, there'll be the 50 over comp. So yeah, Mondays tend to be off. Tuesdays will be like a 4-hour training session where we do bat feed ball, fielding, probably a gym session in there as well. I think Wednesdays are a day off as well. Thursdays another 4-hour session. Fridays a 3-hour session. Saturdays I think are a lighter day, so potentially again either a day off, and then Sunday would be probably when we'd have a game. But I know there's some weekends in there where they're kind of double headers, so workloads and stuff will
of course
change a bit around about that. But yeah, that's probably what I'd say it would look like generally.
Yeah, and that's something that you guys kind of feels manageable and something that you're in control of.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly as someone that only has kind of the 10 hours part-time Northants work on the side, it fits in quite well. Those days off also allow me to play a bit of golf as well, which is always handy.
What do you think's next for the women's games? What do you hope is next, and what do you think, what else can be done?
I think in an ideal world you'd have kind of, obviously you've got the 8 regions and 5 pros at each region. Ideally you'd have a whole squad of pros, like similar to the men's, in terms of everyone in the squad having a full-time contract, which I know is similar to what the state teams out in Australia have. And obviously they're probably the world leaders in women's cricket, and I guess that's probably a reflection of the fact that they can have, 6-7 squads of 15 players all getting paid to play. I think going forward, that'll obviously be something that the ECB are looking to, and England and Wales as a whole, that they'll be looking to get more full-time contracted players, and that's obviously going to then increase the pool of talent for England selection and moving forward, which is only going to raise the standard and hopefully see us winning more silverware as a nation.
What do you think your younger self, so like 12, 13-year-old Joe, would have made of the fact that you've gone on to achieve this and get this contract?
I think a bit of disbelief, to be honest with you. I've said it in a couple of times when I've spoken, like, I don't think it was ever really a thing I thought would happen. It was probably only kind of up to maybe 3 years ago that I thought potentially, I could make a little bit of a career out of this. But certainly when I was younger, kind of 12, 13, it was literally, I just want to see how good and how far I can push myself, and wherever I kind of end up in that journey, then so be it. I was never really thinking, I can definitely make a career out of this in 10 years time, 11 years time, whatever. So yeah, I'd probably say a bit disbelieving, thinking that's not going to happen in the time that you're going to be playing cricket, kind of thing. So yeah, it's amazing, and that's probably why I'm loving it so much, and I'm so grateful for it. Yeah,
that's so good to hear. I think if you'd just spoken to anyone, any female playing cricket kind of 10 years ago, would have said exactly what you've just said. So it is, yeah, like you say, just amazing to see it. And next one I'm going to ask, because Callum asked me this on last week's show, and you're definitely in a better place to answer it than me. If you could give a young girl either playing cricket at the minute or just wanting to start out or getting involved some advice, what would that advice be?
I think for me it's a lot to do with the enjoyment factor and working hard. I think if you work hard, you're always gonna give yourself the best opportunity to progress, if that's something that you're certainly interested in doing and making a career out of the sport. That's got to be there, but again, balancing that with not being too hard on yourself and enjoying it. I think certainly when I was that age, probably between 12 to 17, I was very hard on myself and probably didn't actually enjoy the sport as much as I do now, which is strange because ironically there's probably a bit more pressure on me now as a professional than there would have been as a 15-year-old. It's a bit of a strange phenomenon, but I think because I was very concerned with obviously just trying to do well and see where that got me, it probably took a little bit out of the enjoyment factor of that. So I'd certainly say as long as you work hard and keep enjoying the game and almost remember why you started. I know it's a cliche that's used a lot, but that certainly helps you stay grounded. So yeah, that'd be my advice for anyone.
Yeah, that's good.
Starting out.
What's your reason that you started? What's that thing that you always think back to and remember?
I just playing cricket in the garden with my brother, to be honest, and just wanting to beat him, and that kind of competitive edge of him being the older brother wanting to get me out and thinking that I was not very good and an easy wicket for him kind of thing. I think a few times I might have hit the ball over the next door neighbour's garden, and then it was kind of like, yeah, there's something within me here. I reckon I can get him out or whack him for six.
Move on to some quick fire fun rounds, if that's all right. So just going to shout some out for you. Favourite ground you've played at?
I would say Edgbaston.
Nice. Favourite umpire?
Sue Redfern. She's a very good umpire.
Good answer. Fastest bowler you've ever faced?
Catherine Brunt, I think.
Best way to occupy the time in a rain delay?
Bit of corridor cricket. Can't beat that, can you?
Standard. Your greatest cricketing achievement?
I would say, yeah, getting awarded one of these full-time contracts, to be honest.
And finally, the 3 cricketing dinner guests, alive or dead, that you'd have at your dream dinner.
I reckon you got to have Freddie Flint off. I reckon he's a character that'd have some stories to tell. AB de Villiers, he's someone I've always admired. Seems pretty cool. And probably Jofra Archer. Little bit rogue, but just pick his brain, see how he was feeling at the top of his mark when he was running into bowl in that World Cup final.
And how he manages to bowl with that huge watch on that must weigh more than his hand.
Correct, and the chain, and still bowl at 94 mile an hour. It's ridiculous.
Brilliant. Right, well, that's everything. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, Joe. It's great to chat to you, and yeah, really appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just to recap, thanks so much to Carly and to Joe, great role model for women's cricket, and lots more to come for the women's game later in the show. Just looking around the country at scores, things have been happening. Derbyshire moved on to 253. They haven't lost any wickets, so Worcestershire have moved on to 253. They still currently trail Derbyshire by 137 runs with 3 wickets remaining. Moving on to the Essex game, they lost a wicket straight out the gate. They lost Harmer, gone for 6. Bold rain, LBW. Essex currently lead Durham by 56 runs with 3 wickets remaining. You'd think they need a substantial partnership now in order to have any chance of winning this game. I would have thought, they need some runs quite desperately. On to Nottinghamshire versus Warwickshire. They haven't lost any wickets, although they have just lost a wicket literally in that time. Duckett out. Bold Roads, LBW for 25. They are now 131 for 3, and they lead Warwickshire by 203 runs with 7 wickets remaining. Be interesting to see how they set that up. I'm sure Warwickshire will be looking for a few quick wickets now that they have broken the partnership. Hampshire, Middlesex into Group 2. I'm pleased to say Sam Northeast has got his 100. He's on 103 not out. Holland is creeping there. He's currently on 99 not out. They haven't lost any wickets. They've moved on to 217, and they currently lead Middlesex by an imposing 457 runs with 8 wickets remaining. You have to think that Middlesex are going to be looking to try and bat probably a day and a half to rescue this game and get a draw if they're going to get anything out of it. Across to Somerset versus Gloucester, the West Country Derby, as lots of people are calling it. This fixture hasn't typically happened because they haven't been in the same divisions. So it's a great one to see, and I'm sure that the West Country are hot on who wins this for bragging rights. A wicket has fallen since we last spoke. They are now 308 for 9. The wicket being Payne. He was out, caught and bowled by Marchant de Lang for 12. So Gloucestershire currently trail Somerset by 4 runs with 1 wicket remaining. I imagine they'll want to at least get to parity and try and get 10 runs ahead, maybe try and take an early wicket whilst they still have a very slim lead. Moving over to Surrey versus Leicestershire, Pope has now brought up his 100. Pope's on 102, Folkes 77. They haven't lost any wickets since we last spoke. I think they're starting to move themselves towards a commanding position. Surrey are currently 272 for 3. They trail Leicestershire by 103 runs, but they still have 7 wickets remaining. And you'd think that today's probably a big day for them to set up quite a large lead and see if they can bowl Leicestershire out tomorrow. Moving on to Group 3, Glamorgan versus Sussex. Since we last spoke, Sussex are all out. They were all out for 481. The last wicket to fall being Robinson for 67. Bowled Hogan, LBW. Glamorgan have now started their second innings. They currently are on 7 for none. They trail Sussex by 189 runs with 10 wickets remaining. Kent versus Yorkshire. Since we last spoke, Yorkshire have lost a wicket. Cola Cadmore bowled Stuart Cox for 3. Yorkshire are currently 25 for 1. They lead Kent by 139 runs with 9 wickets remaining. You'd think again they're going to try and pile on some runs, probably give Kent the better part of a day and half a session to bat. They'll probably try and stick them in this evening and give them a tricky period of play. It'll be interesting to see how that game transpires. And on to our final game after 9, looking at Lancashire versus Kent. Northampton have struck twice, nice and early, 2 quick wickets. So they are now currently 71 for 2. The wickets of Keaton Jennings and Alex Davis. So both the batsmen that were in overnight are now gone. We've got fresh batters at the crease, Bohannon and Croft. And the wickets went to Sanderson and Tom Taylor. Lancashire lead Northamptonshire by 200 runs with 8 wickets remaining. Again, you'd think that they'll bat most of the day and probably leave Northamptonshire a day and half a session to bat, depending on how many wickets fall. Right, so that's your county roundups for the time being. Let's see what we've got in store for you next. Up next, we've got a national county story. We've got a really interesting one for you. I think you'll enjoy it. It's somebody who's was contracted at Surrey, has played for Hertfordshire, Cambridgeshire, Bedfordshire. It is a high-performance coach, has travelled the world as an MCC cricketer, and he has a fantastic take on batting for you towards the end. So any of those more experienced or younger batters out there, have a little listen and see what you think. Hi, I'm here with Eddie Ballard. Eddie, how you doing?
Fantastic, mate. Yeah, really good.
Great to see you. And so, Eddie, you're currently the player coach at Bedfordshire County Cricket Club, and you're still doing a bit of work for KP?
Yeah, so obviously a little bit that's dried up a little bit with COVID. We're not obviously over in India at the moment, but once we can get back out there, then we certainly will be.
Brilliant. And to say you've had a distinguished career in cricket, I think would be a bit of an understatement. I remember playing against you many years ago, and you seem to just whack us everywhere. So, it'd be great to hear a little bit about your story and your childhood playing cricket and how you sort of came into to playing as you do now.
Yeah, I think it was all down to my dad, really. Probably like everyone else, getting dragged down to a cricket ground when I was younger. Mum did the tees, Dad was playing. I used to just sit there and throw balls at the guys that were going in next to bat. Dad only played village cricket, but it was just my childhood, really. I was at a cricket ground Saturday and Sunday all weekend, and then when I finally got to the age where I could actually start playing, joined the club and went from there, really. Played junior cricket all through my life at Bishop Stortford, and then went through the Hertfordshire ranks from under 10s or under 9s, whatever it was then. It's not the same now, but lovely to go through that system and through that pathway. Very fortunate for me that I was able to do that all through through up until sort of 17 when I got into the first team. So playing minor county cricket at Hertfordshire, and then went on to university. Was very lucky to go through the MCC university scheme at Cambridge, playing for the combined 11 in the second 11 trophy and championship, which then led to me getting an opportunity at Surrey, and having a season there. Things didn't quite work out probably how I would have wanted in the professional game for the longevity of it, but that's the way it works. Sometimes you don't quite get things exactly how you want. I was still playing at Hertfordshire at the time, so I think I'd done 4 or 5 years maybe of minor county cricket before I got an opportunity at a major county. It just shows how important that pathway was. Really, playing minor county cricket still does give you that opportunity, and it did then. It was a fantastic chance for me. I think we played a Hearts game against Surrey twos, and I got a few runs. Surrey sort of had a chat with me, and then we played Middlesex the following year for Hearts, and I got a few runs, and then they contacted me again, and that was sort of how it spiraled. So even just playing through the NCCA stuff, which was minor counties at the time, gave me that opportunity and the chance to give sort of professional cricket a go. And then, yeah, as I say, it didn't quite work out probably how I would have liked, but through the years playing for the MCC and the Club Cricket Conference, which again, 2 fantastic teams to play for and opportunities to tour and play some big teams at some great grounds. I carried on playing minor county cricket for Hearts. I think I was there maybe well over a decade. Very successful side. We got to Lords in the final of the trophy. And then, yeah, went on and moved on. I moved my roles. I was working at Hertfordshire at the time, went and did a regional role covering Cambridgeshire, and I played a couple of years there. But then an opportunity came up at Bedfordshire, which was very difficult to turn down. The chance to sort of start from scratch and try and build something right from the bottom is something I hadn't had the opportunity to do. I'd been at 2 pretty successful sides, and this was something that I really felt I could give a proper go to. It was extremely disappointing last year not to be able to play any competitive games. We'd put together what I think is a fantastic squad, and something that I think we can really go quite far with if we can get everyone to stay together. But yeah, last year very disappointing, and then hopefully now moving forwards we can give it a real crack this year.
No, it sounds brilliant, and I have to ask, knowing the scholar that you are, what did you study at Cambridge?
Believe me, I wasn't at Cambridge. You know that true. At the time, I wanted to be a PE teacher, so I did sports science, physical education. So at the time, that's what I wanted to do. Cricket then sort of took over, and sort of backbenched that. And then, yeah, I ended up going full time into coaching. I started working on the development side as a cricket development officer, and then a program manager doing the regional role. But then I've moved more into the performance side of coaching now. Brilliant.
So yeah, it's great to see how you've sort of come through that national county system, and not only did you get an opportunity to play at a major county, but also you've been now coaching for how long? 10, 15 years?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, from a performance point of view, be well over 10 years now.
No, it's great to see, and it's another great story really to how cricket grows and develops as you go through those pathways. So just touching a little bit on the importance of national county cricket, which I know you've already spoken about in parts. I mean, was there anything specific that helped you with regards to being at Hertfordshire? Was it quite a good family feeling? Was it good that it was local? How did the national county programme, I guess, help you on your journey?
I think growing up, it was a very interesting environment. You get thrust into something at sort of 15, 16 years old when you're 12th man and you're sort of waiting for an opportunity. But it was such a fantastic atmosphere at Hertfordshire. I could not speak a bad word about how the guys were. I was very much taken in. I was given an opportunity at a very young age, and I made lifelong friends at Hertfordshire, friends that I still very, very close to now. And I think that's probably the main thing at Hearts. It was real close group of guys. We were a very successful side. Like I said, we got to Lords in I think that was 2011. It was just a great group of guys to be around, and we almost just played off of each other. Guys were very successful while we were there, and it was just an unbelievable place to play at the time.
No, it's fantastic, and it's interesting that, you know, as last week, in case you didn't see, Eddie, we had a special did comment on the friendships made within cricket, and then actually it was Jeff's most important fact of cricket was that the people he'd come across and develop relationships with was his core value to why he wanted to play cricket. Would you say that's something similar for you?
100%. I've been, I suppose, fortunate to play in a lot of different teams and a lot of different environments with some extraordinary characters, some characters that potentially are very quiet. But I've made some fantastic friends, not just through the NCCA stuff and minor county stuff, which used to be, but the MCC, the Club Cricket Conference, being able to go and experience the world essentially with different people every time. People that, you know, you go on tours and stuff where you turn up at Lords and you haven't met some of the players before. You've got to spend 2 or 3 weeks with them somewhere. It's a fantastic experience, and cricket is something like no other, really.
Yeah.
It's a truly remarkable sport, and the opportunities that you are offered, especially in this country, are second to none.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, just for our viewers today, I mean, have you got a list of the countries you've been to play cricket?
We'd be here for a long, long time. We would be here for a long time. I have been very, very fortunate. I have got to play in some extraordinary places, some places that you probably would think, why would you be going there for cricket? But they have been some of the best memories that I could ever ask for. Some of those trips will never be forgotten, and some of those memories, not just on the cricket pitch in those places, but the stuff that we were able to do in those countries were, you know, you'll never forget them.
Fantastic. And I mean, looking towards this season and Bedfordshire, I suppose, any sort of fixtures that stand out for you, or any ambitions for silverware? Where are we going?
Yeah, I think I would absolutely love us to try and get some silverware. I'm also very aware that we've started a project, and we are at the start of that project. Last year was obviously curtailed, and we weren't able to begin that, but I feel like I've managed to put together a very strong squad, something that probably Bedfordshire haven't had in recent years. And from my point of view, I would love us to win something, but at the same time, I want to be realistic in the fact that we are in the midst of a project and something that we are trying to change long term. But some of the performances and stuff that we saw last year from some of the guys, I would not rule that out. I mean, we have got some seriously talented cricketers, some great young guys coming through now who are on the Northants Academy as well, Bedford lads, and some very experienced players. And I would absolutely love to say that I would see some silverware at the end of the season. I think we've got a fantastic chance in the 50 over stuff. It's a real shame for me that the T20 stuff has gone, because I think we had a great chance in that as well. But like I say, we're at the start of a project. We've got a fantastic group of lads, and if we can push something for silverware in the first year of creating this, then I would be ecstatic.
No, it's brilliant. And I mean, I love the idea of, just for our viewers, that some of these, you know, it takes time to develop sometimes a winning side, but we're certainly, by the sounds of it, Bedfordshire are on the right path.
Yeah, I think so. We, you know, like I say, we've had a very small time to put together I came in to my role maybe 18 months ago now, and I've probably only seen the players 10 times, which is quite extraordinary to think. But that whole winter period of putting together that squad, getting ready for that season, and then it not happening was quite tough. But we've found ways to add to that squad in terms of some of the younger boys, and it's exciting. I'm very excited about what could happen at Bedfordshire, and I think it's something that in recent years specifically it hasn't been that way. And like I say, I'm very excited about what we could do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people have realised now. I know you fairly well, and just while I've got you, I think I have to ask a question that, you know, your mindset to cricket and your mindset to batting are pretty unique, actually quite special, I think, and certainly something that has factored into the success you have had as a player and the teams around you have had. I mean, are you able to share any of those sort of words of wisdom that normally you think about when you bat?
Yeah, I think I've probably changed my mindset a little bit from when I was trying to play professional cricket. I was very much thinking about every ball and trying to make sure I stayed in as long as I possibly could and bat for as long as I could. The game has changed a lot since I was playing at that stage. You know, 2020 cricket had just come in. And I've just had to find a way to make myself adaptable, playing more and more white ball cricket, which at the point of me trying to be a professional just wasn't around, and trying to change the way I play. I've become something that I wish I was when I was trying to be a professional, an attacking, positive batsman, but someone who will just back the fact that he feels he can play those shots. I think a lot of times I deal with youngsters who will play those shots in the nets but won't have the confidence to play them in a game. And I think sometimes you just have to say to yourself in the back of your head, I've got this. And if something comes down and you know it's in your arc, you have to back that shot. Sometimes it's not going to come off and you're going to get out. But if you've got a specific role in a team and that is your role, you play that role. There's no need to change the way you play if your role is set in stone. And I think in white ball cricket, I've been very fortunate that I've played in teams where I have had that ability to play that role. And if it doesn't come off, it doesn't come off. It's not the end of the world. We've got players behind me. And that's probably the thing that's really helped, having a strong side below to be able to have someone go and play that way at the top of the innings. And it's enjoyable. There's nothing better than from the start of the game, I guess, being positive and having a bit of a dip, and trying to get your team off to the start that your role is associated to.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, right, a couple of quick fire questions for you then, as we like to do. Favourite ground?
I'm sure everyone will say Lords, and I love Lords, but my favourite ground is Kensington Oval in Barbados. I've never played at a ground quite as extraordinary as that place.
No, brilliant. Fastest bowler you've ever faced?
Oh, probably Friedel de Vet. He was not nice to face.
Whiz a couple through.
Yeah, he did whiz a couple through. That was in a second team game. He'd just come over from South Africa as an overseas player at Hampshire and decided he fancied a little rollout. Was not quite what I needed, I don't think.
Strangest place you've ever played cricket?
Well, this list could go on. Probably Belize. That probably is the strangest place. I guess from the fact that I wasn't even really aware of the place before I went there. So to find out that I was going there to play and then to have to Google it and double check where it was probably makes it the strangest place.
No, brilliant. And your favourite umpire?
Oh, Ben Debenham, no doubt. I've known Ben for a long, long time. He's a fantastic bloke. And I think he holds a record for the most dismissals given in a day in first-class cricket. I'd have to double-check with him, but I've got a funny feeling it's something like that. Syed Ajmal was bowling, and he's adamant everything was out.
Eddie, it's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
No problems, mate. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed Eddie's story there. It's quite a fascinating one, and especially his experience on batting and how he's adapted through his career is certainly something which I think is important for cricketers, because lots of people believe that cricket players get pigeonholed. They can only do one thing. Well, that's obviously not true. You can adapt the whole way through your career, and Eddie has very successfully. So certainly take a lot of heart from what he has to say, and I would recommend listening to his advice. It works. Right, scores around the country. There's been a few changes, a few things have happened. Going into Group 1, Derby versus Worcestershire. They haven't lost any more wickets. They've added. I want to say that no, they haven't lost any more wickets. And they're now on 265, so they've added roughly 13 runs to when we last spoke. Moving on to game 2, and Essex, the last time we left them they were 212 for 7. They're now currently on to 233 for 7. I imagine Walter is on 64 not out, Allison 10 not out. Again, I would imagine Durham are going to look to try and wrap this up pretty fast. Ultimately, Essex lead Durham by 70 runs with 3 wickets remaining. it'd be interesting to see how far ahead Essex can get. Could they get to 150 and maybe pose a challenge? The weather looks good, although it might get overcast this afternoon, which might make the ball move through the air a little bit and give the likes of Porter a real chance of taking a few early wickets and putting some pressure onto Durham. But really, you'd be thinking that this is Durham's game to lose. Moving into the final game of Group 1, Nottinghamshire versus Warwickshire. Since we last spoke, they were 131 for 3. They are now 141 for 4. They lost the wicket of Joe Clark for 56. Bowled Ollie Stone, caught Burgess. Looks like he's nicked off to the keeper. And currently James not out on 5 and Mulaney not out on 0 at the crease. The Nottinghamshire currently lead Warwickshire by 213 runs. They have 6 wickets remaining. I imagine they will look to bat as close as they can till lunch at 1 o'clock. Maybe have a bit of an acceleratory period after lunch, and then it will be over to Warwickshire to have a bat. And the likes of Stuart Broad running in at you with a new ball ready to go. It could be tough ask Warwickshire, especially having lost Don Sibley for injury. I still don't know whether he's going to be back. So that would be a tough game, I think, for Warwickshire to come out of on top. Moving on to Group 2, Hampshire versus Middlesex. Last time we left them, they had 2 players looking to get 100, Messrs Holland and North East. They've both now achieved their 100s. Ian Holland has got 108 off 164 balls with 14 fours. Sam North East 114 of 183 balls with 13 fours. They're looking to get into quite a commanding position. Now Hampshire, I mean, it's really damage control time. I would have thought for Middlesex to just try and reduce the runs, having had a first innings score of 79 all out. Hampshire currently lead Middlesex by 477 runs, and they have 8 wickets still left. I imagine they'll probably get 600 again, like they did against Leicestershire, and then it'll be over to Middlesex to have a bat. And they've got the likes of Carl Abbott and of course Mohammed Abbas coming in. If there's cloud cover and that ball starts to swing, I imagine he's probably one of the hardest bowlers to face in world cricket. So, thoughts with Middlesex at the moment, that could be a really, really tough afternoon going into the final day. Looking in at our second game, Somerset versus Gloucestershire. Since we last spoke, Gloucestershire were all out for 309. Last wicket to fall was M. Taylor. And yes, so they achieved 309 all out. Almost parity with Somerset. They trailed Somerset by 3 runs. Somerset are currently in reply. They are 2 without loss. Banton and Lamonby batting away, with Payne just completed his first over for 2 runs. Somerset lead Gloucestershire by 5 runs with 10 wickets remaining. The last game of Group 2, Surrey Leicestershire. Since we last spoke, Surrey were on 262 for 3. Since then, they have lost no more wickets. They've moved on to 292 for 3. Pope with 115 not out off 146 balls with 16 fours. I think that will certainly help make him feel a lot better. He's been, getting some runs ready for the Test series, I imagine, which he'll be in against New Zealand in May, June. Ben Folkes again still with him at the crease on 80 not out of 199 balls, 9 fours. Again, this can only strengthen his England possibilities, getting big runs early in the season. Looks like it could be tough going for Leicestershire. Surrey still trail Leicestershire by 83 runs, but they have 7 wickets remaining and a big partnership set. And also Leicestershire, of course, bowled a lot of overs in their last game, so it will be interesting to see how those guys have pulled up and how fit and fresh they're feeling this morning and throughout the rest of today. Surrey trail Leicester 80 by 83 runs with 7 wickets remaining. Moving on to Group 3, Glamorgan versus Sussex. Since we last spoke, Glamorgan are now all out for 481. Should I say Sussex are now out for 481? Apologies. The last wicket being Robinson, and it looks like there was 4 wickets for Hogan in the end, and an economy rate of 1.96, bowling 23.5 overs. Glamorgan have started their second innings, 29 for no loss of 8 overs. Selman 10 not out, Lloyd 19 not out. Glamorgan trail Sussex by 167 runs with 10 wickets remaining. That could be a really exciting game, especially if Glamorgan bat out today, get themselves to maybe 250 ahead, 300, and give Sussex most of tomorrow to bat. That could be really, really exciting. Certainly one to watch. Kent versus Yorkshire. Since we last spoke, Yorkshire have lost a wicket. They lost Cola Cadmore for 3 runs, bowled Stuart Cox. They've now moved on to 42 for 1. They currently lead Kent by 156 runs with 9 wickets remaining. Moving on to our final game of the round, Lancashire versus Northamptonshire. Last time we spoke, they were 70 for 2. They are now moved on to 91 for 2 at Lancashire. Bahanan on 16 of 28 balls, Croft on 10 of 22 balls. A wicket apiece for Sanderson and Taylor still. It looks as though Lancashire lead Northamptonshire by 219 runs with 88 wickets remaining. Could be a tough going for Northamptonshire if they're not to get a few more wickets. They could do with 3 or 4 quite quickly. Might get them back into the game, and you just never know in cricket, so stay posted. And that completes our roundup of the county scores for the time being. Something that we're going to speak a little bit more about today is the return of the recreational game and the fact that the ECB Premier Leagues are starting this week. I know a lot of sides have got either friendlies or are playing league fixtures. For those of you that don't know, there are 29 ECB Premier Leagues throughout the country, and typically are the bedrock of elite cricket for amateurs, I suppose. They span the whole England and Wales regions. So they start with the Northeast Premier League, the North Yorkshire and South Durham Cricket League. There's the Northern Premier League, which is more Lancashire based, Yorkshire Premier League North, Bradford Premier League, Yorkshire South Premier League. As you can see, there's a phenomenal amount of club cricket going on in what is, the White Rose County. They do love their cricket up there, and it shows. Liverpool and Districts Cricket Competition out towards the Wirral, Cheshire and County Cricket League. They've got some lovely grounds in there, particularly nice areas like Alderley Edge. North Staffs and South Cheshire League, Derbyshire County Cricket League, the likes of Ormskirk and a few other clubs up there. Lincolnshire Premier League. Then there's North Wales Cricket League, South Wales Premier Cricket League, West of England Premier League, Nottinghamshire Cricket Board Premier League, Birmingham and District Premier League, which is the oldest cricket league in the country, the West of England Premier League, Leicestershire and Rutland Cricket League, Northamptonshire Cricket League, the Home Counties Premier Cricket League, Hertfordshire Cricket League, Essex, Middlesex, Surrey, Kent, Sussex all have their own Premier Leagues, the Southern Premier Cricket League, and of course, can't forget Devon Cricket League and the Cornwall Cricket League. And what we're going to do with these is we're currently working on a platform to be able to display all the scores live for you on the Berrco website, berrco.co.uk. And we will look to recognise those clubs' feats and those players that are with outstanding performances throughout the show in coming weeks. But at the moment, it's very difficult to pick up those scores. So I'm just trying to find a place where we can have it all in one space. And for those fans of you out there, you can have a really good look. And even for those playing in those games, you can have a look, and hopefully you'll get a shout out on here from your performances. Okay, so moving on, we now have a piece on cricket history with Ian Perry. He's got some interesting updates for you on game-changing women, and I think you will be intrigued to see how women have sculpted cricket from the very beginning, and their influence over the game and how it's played today. And also he has a moment in time for you, as I alluded to earlier in the show. So hopefully you'll enjoy this, and let's see what he's got in store for us. Also, I just wanted to say apologies for any sound difficulties I've been having. It's just I've been trying to figure out a mic and it didn't work, so back to plan A. Anyway, enjoy. Hi, I'm here with Ian Perry for some more cricket history. Ian, how you doing?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks. How about yourself?
I'm good. Apart from the fact that I let you down last week, I didn't do a formal introduction for you. So to our viewers, I do apologise. So Ian, without further ado, tell us a little bit about your sort of upbringing with cricket, if you don't mind, and your journey to date within cricket.
Well, I think probably the overriding word for all of that would be mediocrity. I came into cricket via probably the classic route of becoming involved with my local club initially as scorer. So I ended up scoring for the first team or playing for the thirds and then seconds and firsts. And then university, and then working through the 90s and onwards. I was working in the Thames Valley and playing for different clubs, so Maidenhead, Taplow, Bracknell, and playing league cricket, usually as wicketkeeper or opening batsman. As I say, turning mediocrity into an art form, and then after a couple of years away from the game, mostly for family reasons, I came back into it via wandering cricket, and I'm now exclusively involved with various wandering clubs, and I don't play any league cricket at all.
Do you miss any? Do you miss any of those league cricket days?
Not really, because what I love now about the game is the kind of that slightly more relaxed approach where you don't want to lose, or rather you still play and do your best, but your enjoyment of the game in the moment takes over from the kind of the competitive drive. So your enjoyment is still very much based on doing well, but you'd rather lose a good game, an enjoyable game where everybody's actually had a really good time. Yeah. You'd rather lose that than scrape out a boring draw, which might be more points for the league, but would be an awful lot less enjoyable.
That's brilliant. And I mean, so really you've been a lifelong fan and player of the game, and really now you just at that stage where it's just to enjoy and make sure that you get a full day out.
Exactly that. My first memories of playing cricket, apart from the usual thing of hitting a ball around in the garden with my brother, was I actually got into proper cricket, organised cricket, simply as an excuse to get out of having to do track and field athletics at school.
That sounds like a good plan to me, and I think I did something similar. In fact, I think I remember a time when the captain of athletics assumed I was going to be doing 1500 metre running, and I told him that I was a cricket player, so there was no chance I was going to be available.
I blagged it completely. I went to the master who's actually looking after the athletics and said, "Please, sir, Mr. Bynan said I can go and join the cricket squad." Then ran off to the cricket squad. And, "Please, sir, Mr. Hughes said I could come and join the cricket squad."
And that was that. The rest is history. Yes, and speaking
absolutely.
of history then, Ian, so what have you got for us today? I think we've got a section on game-changing women. I wonder what you've managed to uncover.
Yes, I was doing a little bit of digging through. One of my favourite sources is John Major's absolutely brilliant book, More Than Just a Game. I found a lovely reference in 1741 to Sarah Cadogan, the second Duchess of Richmond, and Charlie Lennox, the second Duke of Richmond, and the Duchess are known across the game as some of a couple of the very early patrons of the game, and very important in the early building of some momentum behind the game. But she was also a very enthusiastic sponsor of women's cricket, and there's one of the earliest references is in 1741. So that's really early in the establishment of the game as an organised activity. This was between Slindon and East Dean, absorbed now into one of the villages in Hampshire.
Okay.
And then 1741, the Whitehall Evening Post referred to a game that was sponsored by her. Elizabeth Smith Stanley, the Countess of Derby, was another very keen player about 30 years later, and she apparently sponsored an 11 to play against the Ladies of Quality and Fashion at the Oaks at Woodmanstone in Surrey, which I think is marvellous. But then probably the most famous of the early female game changers was Christiana Hodges, or Christiana Willis as she was originally. And she and her brother John are credited with being one of the more instrumental actors in bringing round arm bowling into the game. Apparently Tom Walker of the Hambledon Club had actually been the first purveyor of round arm bowling about 20 years before, but it kind of died out quite rapidly. Because I think because it was so radical, it was too radical for its time. And the story goes in around about the start of the 19th century that Christiana and John would actually use a barn as an impromptu net, and she would bowl to him, and apparently they trained the dog to field the ball.
Oh, fantastic. What a great use of a dog, for those dog lovers out there.
Fantastic. And that lovely line that Christiana, John and the dog could take on any 11 in England, and probably the problem with round arm bowling in those days, of course, because it was so radical, it was and it gave the bowler such an advantage. It was deemed to be a little bit too much, and for about 25 to 30 years, there was something of a friction around this. John Willis went on to take part in a game in 1822 at Lord's between Kent and the MCC, where he was constantly no-balled for bowling round arm, to the point where he said, right, that's it, I'm off. Left the field of play, got into his carriage and never touched the ball again, apparently.
Oh, wow. It sounds like a sort of a Darryl Hare Moorley moment, that, doesn't it, really?
It does, rather. It does. The point is not lost that Christiana and John, between them, obviously as part of two of the early pioneers of round arm bowling, their place in history is pretty much immutable. There was the suggestion that Christiana bowled round arm because she couldn't actually bowl underarm wearing a hooped skirt. Yeah. Which is a lovely idea, apart from the fact that hooped skirts were no longer in fashion in those days. Oh. But I think it's more a case of the realisation, particularly after one or two people had done it before, that if they actually perfected it and worked at it, then it could be an incredibly powerful addition to your armoury. Lily Poulett Harris in Tasmania, who was probably the pioneer of women's cricket in Australia and founded the first club in Oyster Cove in Tasmania in 1894. Wow. Which was the first ladies' cricket club in Australia. Of course, any mention of women in cricket, and particularly those who changed the game, you cannot fail to mention Rachel Hayhoe Flint. Yep. Of course, who I think Shield Berry described her as the W.G. Grace of the women's game. And she did so much to effectively to make the game recognisable as something that women could do and be competitive and actually play to a really high standard. Yeah. And an international playing career of over 20 years speaks volumes.
Yeah, that's an amazing achievement for any player, isn't it? That.
Absolutely.
No, it's excellent. It's excellent. And I mean, just even more recently, I remember Charlotte Edwards being a massive pioneer for the England women's team, and those around her. Claire Taylor, I think, is the all-time leading run scorer. I might have got that.
Yeah, I believe so.
And
of course, Sarah Taylor, probably one of the best keepers, if not certainly the best in the women's game, and quite genuinely one of the best in the world game now.
Yeah. Some of her takes standing up are really amazing for those that haven't seen her.
Astonishing. She has the reactions of a housefly.
Yeah, no, it is
She's
amazing.
Incredibly fast.
It's great to sort of hear in, I guess, the journey, and I know there have been a lot of women, not that long ago, really having to battle, unfortunately, for their kind of opportunities in cricket, which is sad to hear. But ultimately now, hopefully, by the foundations laid by these people and the efforts they went to in order to play and to grow the game, hopefully now we're coming the other side of that tunnel where there's much more opportunities and it's far wider spread and grows the game as we want it to grow.
Yeah. The thing that to me really stands out there is the roots of women's cricket are as buried as deep as the roots of men's cricket.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting take. In fact, you've highlighted a couple that even I've never really considered just in this short passage now, and I think it's a great opportunity, I suppose, and a great place to sort of leave this week's history podcast, because who knows what's coming to the future, and who knows what we'll be saying in another 20 years time around where the game has gone, especially for women, and it's thanks a lot to these women who changed the game hundreds of years ago.
Absolute trailblazers.
For our viewers each week, we'll be looking to do some level of family tale or moment in time. Ian, what have you got for us this week?
A moment in time, something that prompted me to think of, albeit a slightly tenuous link to the sad news about Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. If you cast your mind back to 1953 and Christmas, on Christmas Eve there was a horrible disaster in New Zealand. Bridge collapse at Tangiwai and a train going over it at the time, which led to, I think it was 151 people very, very sadly killed. As it happened, the newly crowned Queen and Duke of Edinburgh were actually in New Zealand at the time. At the same time as the disaster, New Zealand were playing South Africa in a test match, which started on Christmas Day, which was when the news broke. And then on Boxing Day, the game resumed, and even more tragic, one of the New Zealand players, Bob Blair, his fiancée was one of those who was killed in the crash.
Oh, no.
And so obviously over the rest day, it was announced that he would withdraw from the game, quite understandably. When the game started on Boxing Day, South African opening bowler Neil Adcock, in his first test series, bowling very quickly on what was proving to be a very lively pitch, was getting the ball to rear. He hit pretty much every one of the New Zealand batsmen. A couple of them were bowled off the body onto the stumps. He hit Laurie Miller, who is the, I think, number 5 batsman, on the chest, forced him to retire hurt. He was coughing blood.
Yeah.
He hit Bert Sutcliffe, who is the left-handed number 4 batsman, hit him on the side of the head, third ball of his innings, and knocked him out. He then retired hurt. So there's two of the top batsmen in hospital already, and with another player out of the side. So the innings cascading into ruins. When the 6th wicket fell, obviously everybody then thought, right, that's it, the end of the innings, and started to walk off, only to see Laurie Miller coming walking out, having been strapped up and dragged himself from hospital to come out and carry on his innings. He hung around for about another 45 minutes, made a really brave, really gritty 14 before he was out. And then, of course, everybody started walking off again. only to then see Bert Sutcliffe walking out.
The resurrection.
He's come from hospital. He's swathed in bandages, almost looking like a Sikh.
Yeah.
There's so much bandage. He's still bleeding from the side of his head, and he started to carry on his innings. He took the view, possibly augmented by a certain amount of Scottish spirit as opposed to Dutch courage. He probably felt that he couldn't really just try and push and prod and poke it around, but try and fight fire with fire. But then his partner, I can't remember who the non-striker, but the other batsman was, but he was out. And so, of course, everybody starts walking off again, thinking that's it. And everything stopped. Everything went absolutely silent. The whole of Johannesburg ground went silent because the person walking out to bat was Bob Blair.
Oh.
And he came out to bat. All the New Zealand players in the changing room watching with tears flooding down their faces. The South Africans, not much better. And Sutcliffe walked up to him, put his arm around him and said, "This is no place for us. Let's just give it a whack. Let's get on with it and see what happens." And I'm getting emotional even just telling you this. They took 25, which was then the world record for a number of runs off and over.
Wow.
From 1 over from Tayfield. And Sutcliffe hit him for 3 straight sixes, straight back over his head, bang, 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 took a single, and then Blair hit 1 over mid-wicket. The only scoring shot of his innings was a 6 over mid-wicket. They took 25 off that 1 over. They added 35 in literally about 12 balls before Blair was out, leaving Sutcliffe not out 80. And all of those 80 runs having been made after he got hit on the head, bleeding still. And as they walked off, the whole place just erupted. And at that moment, as they walked off, and Sutcliffe just stood back to let Blair go through in front of him, through the gate, and they went off, arms around each other's shoulders, into the tunnel. That's a moment in time.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Ian. Ian, it's been brilliant to have you this week. Can't wait till next week. You take care.
My pleasure. All the best.
Cheers, bud. Bye. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed what Ian had for us today, and it really was. It really caught me, I guess, off guard. Kind of the occasion that must have been for that last batter to come out, having just had his wife die a couple of days before, at Christmas time, and I think it really does encompass, the spirit of cricket, how people come together, how it is more than just the physical macho side of the game. It's very much around the mentality, the mental state. They're representing their country. Cricket, you often don't want to show how you're feeling to the opposition, and I think that was a very courageous effort by someone that clearly must have been in a lot of emotional pain. Certainly, it opened my eyes. I'd never even heard of that story before or even thought about it. So it's great for me. And I suppose with regards to the game-changing women, I just think it was interesting to see how they had affected the game from such an early stage. People seem to think as women and girls cricket coming later, but it's obviously not, because it's written there in history. And as I said on that Cricket in a Minute video, it is the most documented sport in the world. It's the most written about sport. There is no one right way to do anything. It is very much open for scope and open for speculation, and it is an excellent game to follow. Because there is so much conversation. People might think, how can you have a whole day's play and sit there and enjoy yourself? Well, it's about catching up with that person. It's about a social aspect of being with that person. It's about actually taking some time out of your normal work life to go and enjoy something, enjoy the spectacle, enjoy the occasion, have a bit of a conversation around, and often differing opinions on what's happening in the game, and just catch up. And I think, society as a whole could learn a lot from just having and going and watching a day's cricket, whether that be a test match, a 4-day game, a local club game, a Hayhoe Flint Trophy game, a national counties match. There is so much going on. There's so much cricket. You know, you go and have a look. You might just enjoy it, and I think you'll certainly enjoy the atmosphere. You know, I get a lot of parents when I coach speak to me around the atmosphere at football games. And a lot of them have now put off and don't really enjoy going as a parent because of the environment. I can assure you cricket is the polar opposite. Very family orientated, very welcoming. And, you know, and as soon as those government restrictions are lifted, I can't recommend to you enough to go down to your local club or to the local county and watch. You know, I know your support will be massively appreciated. You know, at this time, especially after many of them have been shut for so long and not been able to create any sources of revenue throughout the winter. But anyway, that's my pitch piece for recreational cricket. I just think it's so important that you go and watch, and by watching you can learn and you can play at the side of the pitch, and it is a great thing to do and something that I think we should do more of. So on to our roundups. Let's look in at Group 1 and see what's happening there. Derbyshire versus Worcestershire. Since we last spoke, there has been 1 wicket fallen. 2 wickets, in fact, have now fallen. They are 305 for 9. Barnard out and Leach has followed suit. Barnard with 23 and Leach with 7. Barnard out Critchley, caught Madison, and Leach 7 runs. Bowled Hudson Prentice, caught Critchley. Worcestershire currently trail Derbyshire by 85 runs with 1 wicket remaining. So it looks as though Derbyshire will head into the second innings with a lead. They'll be looking to wrap up that final wicket as fast as possible, get themselves set, maybe a good 40 minutes before lunch, maybe see if they can get that up to 100, 110 ahead at lunchtime, and then progress into the afternoon session and evening session, probably going to leave them a day to bat. And that will be certainly quite an interesting game to see how that pans out. Oh, they're currently between innings, in fact. So they have wrapped up the tail. Worcestershire 305 all out. They trail Derbyshire by 85 runs. Moving on to Essex versus Durham. Since we last spoke, there haven't been any wickets. There have been some runs though. Walters now on 69 not out of 120 balls, with Allison still with him on 22 not out. That's a very valuable back-end partnership there for Essex, especially as they currently lead Durham by 87 runs with 3 wickets remaining, and they're going to need every run they can get in order to get something out of this game. I imagine Durham will fancy anything under 250 quite comfortably. Having said that, Essex have a great bowling lineup. Harmer took 5 wickets last week. Porter with the new ball is always dangerous. Sam Cook took 4 last week as well. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see how that game pans out. Essex lead Durham by 87 runs with 3 wickets remaining. On to our final game in the group. In Group 1, Nottinghamshire are still batting. Since we last spoke, they haven't lost any wickets. James, that is Lyndon James, a new name for me, that one, is 12 not out of 39 balls, with Mulaney with him on 9. He needs no introduction, of 28 balls, and they're still not out at the crease. So Nottinghamshire currently leading Warwickshire by 228 runs with 6 wickets remaining. You'd think they would probably bat all of the afternoon session, which is sort of after lunch till tea, and they will look to post 400, 450 if they can, and give Warwickshire 3.5 sessions to bat, and probably to try and survive at that point. Again, with Stuart Broad in that lineup, Zach Chappell, there's a lot of very strong seam bowling to come. Moving across to Group 2, Hampshire versus Middlesex. Hampshire, since we last spoke, have lost a couple of quick wickets. In fact, I think they've lost 2. They are now on 294. They lead Middlesex by 530 runs with 6 wickets remaining after Hampshire got a first innings total of 319 and Middlesex was 79 all out. Mohammed Abbas again with those 6 wickets, just ripping through their top order. Wickets to fall was Sam Northeast. He's on 118. He got off 188 balls, bowled by Stephen Finn. And the next wicket was James Vince for naught, LBW by Stephen Finn. Of course, that will dent probably his England chances moving forward. Although you never know, you could get some more runs in next week's game or the week after, before the season, before the international season, should I say. They are currently. I think they're between innings. It looks as though Hampshire have declared. Just as what's the odds of that? Just as I was about to flick across, 290 before declared. They lead Middlesex by 530 runs with 6 wickets remaining. They feel as though 530 is enough to get Middlesex out, and I imagine that they'll be looking for a real hard 40-minute session at Middlesex before lunch. They'll probably have a rest, get those bowlers to recuperate, and then back out there for the afternoon evening. It'll be interesting to see how Middlesex go on. They've got some batters that can bat a long time, so maybe they will. Moving on to a second game in Group 2, Somerset versus Gloucestershire. Banton is now on 13 not out, Hildreth on 0 not out. It looks to me they've lost 2 quick wickets. They are 22 for 2. The wickets to fall were Lammonby and Abel, both bowled Higgins. Lammonby caught by Bracey, bowled Higgins, and Abel LBW to Higgins. Certainly should be an interesting game. Somerset currently lead Gloucestershire by 25 runs with 8 wickets remaining, so very much in the balance. You'd think that if Gloucestershire are able to take a few more early wickets and restrict them to 200, 230, I'm sure they'd back themselves to get those runs and have a second win after a resounding victory against Surrey last week. Moving on to Surrey versus Leicestershire, our final game in Group 2. Since we last spoke, Surrey haven't lost any wickets. They are currently 320 for 3. Ollie Pope, 135 not out of 170 balls. Ben Folkes, 86 not out of 228 balls. He's certainly playing second foil to Pope, who's batting slightly slower. That's what I mean by that. And ultimately, he's just sticking around as best he can, whilst obviously scoring at sort of 40 runs per 100 balls he would score at the moment. But no doubt, once he gets to his 100, he'll go through the gears, and that's the natural progression of a batter's innings. Surrey trail Leicestershire still by 54 runs with 7 wickets remaining. You'd think they'd get a lead now. Probably look for maybe a lead of 150, 200. It's a difficult one, isn't it? If they're batting really well and they stay 3 down, Pope and Folkes both going to get double hundreds, then you're probably looking at Surrey only needing to bat once in this game. If a few quick wickets fall and Surrey are able to sort of get maybe 100 runs ahead, you're probably looking at them having to bat again in the game and, of course, get the 10 wickets of Leicestershire first. Moving on to Group 3, our Glamorgan versus Sussex game. Since we last spoke, Sussex have moved on to 44 for 2. They've lost 2 wickets, both bats, both openers. Selman LBW to Robinson for 11 and Lloyd LBW to Robinson for 19. So Glamorgan currently trail Sussex by 152 runs with 8 wickets remaining. That could be quite a difficult stretch for Glamorgan if they were to lose 2 or 3 more quick wickets. They're still trailing by 150, and again Sussex with a mammoth 481 all out in the first innings, they'd back themselves to get 250 plus chasing in that final 4th innings. So I think it's quite a tall order for Glamorgan, but you just never know. Moving on to our next game in Group 3, Kent versus Yorkshire. Since we last spoke, there has been no more wickets. They're currently 68 for 1. The wicket, of course, was Cola Cadmore for 3. Bowled Stewart, caught Cox. Yorkshire currently lead Kent by 182 runs with 9 wickets remaining. That'll be a good game. I think Yorkshire will likely set a target. Unsure of what that will be. It will depend on time. But I would imagine anything above 350 they would take and have a go at getting Kent out. I mean, they again have another star-studded bowling lineup: David Willey, Stephen Patterson, Dane Oliver, the South African. He's very fast. So they will be, I imagine, chomping to run in at Kent and see if they can get them all out and take a victory with them. On to our final game of Group 3, Lancashire versus Northamptonshire. They are still 2 down, sadly, as a Northamptonshire fan. But they are currently moved on to 122 for 2. They now lead Northamptonshire by 250 runs with 8 wickets remaining. You'd have to say they're starting to back themselves into a strong position. Hannon on 22 of 45 balls, currently not out, with Stephen Croft on 26 runs of 50 balls. Both of those batters are known for scoring very quickly, as well, especially Croft when they're ready. So you would think it's a matter of time before they probably start to open up their arms a little bit and try and extend that lead to 400 and put some real pressure on the Northamptonshire batting lineup when it becomes their turn. I imagine they will keep batting till at least lunch, probably the session after lunch, and then give Northampton 4 sessions, so that's this evening and 3 tomorrow, to survive basically and see if they can come out with a draw on that fixture. Lancashire lead Northamptonshire by 250 runs with 8 wickets remaining. So that concludes our roundup. It's now with great pleasure I get to introduce someone who I met a few years ago. Certainly an unassuming person, someone that you wouldn't believe his story. It is really quite special. I am truly humbled that he took the time to speak with me. He is a truly inspirational person to myself, and I've had the privilege of playing cricket with him. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Major Buddy Bahandari of the Gurkhas, and he has formed the Brigade of the Gurkhas Cricket Club. I caught up with him earlier in the week from Brunei, and here's what he had to say. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a true honour to introduce Major Buddy Bahandari from the Gurkhas, and currently the founder of the Brigade of the Gurkhas Cricket Club. Buddy, how are you doing?
I am fine, Callum, thank you so much.
No, it's great to have you with us. And just before we dive into the cricket club, are you able to tell us a little bit about your journey as a Gurkha?
Absolutely. It's been a very interesting journey. As I always dreamed about being a Gurkha soldier, and I think that was back in 1990 when I decided to join. And since then, I'm a third, fourth generation Gurkha as like soldier. It's been a privilege to serve in the British Army as a Gurkha, and the journey is ongoing, and I'm loving every single bit of it.
Fantastic. And so just moving towards cricket, I mean, growing up in cricket, was there much cricket for you growing up? Was it always a passion of yours?
I was actually, I grew up in India. So as you know, as India being a good place for cricket, and I played from my childhood to school and college level. And cricket has always been my spirit passion. So every opportunity to do with the cricket, I was there, and I'm still there.
That's brilliant. And so your earliest memories were playing in India. Whereabouts in India were you playing, in Mumbai or?
I was actually in Nagpur at that time, not far from Mumbai, near Pune. The first, before that, obviously it was little cricket wherever we can find space. But Nagpur was a proper cricket when I was in secondary school. What I remember from that time is we used to basically collect a couple of rupees each, and then we buy a new ball, and we will just have a match against any team that we can find. and that was always a look forward for the weekend, and that's how we grew up. And then we ended up playing in bigger tournaments, and any ad hoc tournaments are happening around where we lived. We went and played. No. Yeah, it was all good fun.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and truly, you know, it just shows kind of cricket can just be played anywhere and under any circumstances. It's brilliant. And so, buddy, tell me a little bit. When did you decide to start the Brigade of the Gurkhas Cricket Club?
That was, I think I was thinking about it in 2016-17. And the reason I thought, because as you know, Brigade Gurkhas is quite big now in Assam. And then we have a lot of youngsters in Assam who have a lot of potentials, and they have been through in a lot of cricket, school level, district level. They even represented county in Nepal, but when they joined, because of the circumstances, they've always been busy and they couldn't find a platform where they can start playing cricket again. Having played some army level, army cricket, representing my regiment and my corps, I thought it would be a good idea to find a platform where I can bring all the players from Brigade of Gurkhas and provide them a platform where they can practice, we can come together, and then we identify potential players who could represent, you know, like in the bigger matches, like, you know, play for Army, or, you know, like all the tournaments where if they are scattered everywhere, they wouldn't be able to represent or won't be able to play. So that was the main idea. And with the kind permission from the previous Colonel of the Brigade of Gurkhas, Colonel James Robinson, I had to go ahead to establish a team. I pulled a team together. Initially, it was like a squad of 20 players. That's when actually, and we decided to go on form on the team. And we played, I think, our first match with the local team, just to practice. And by then, we had already communicated with each other, and the big match was already on. I think it was July 2018 when we played proper match in Aldershot with a lot of Taverners.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, wasn't it? It's a great day. The Lord Taverners Buccaneers on site with you, and you know what a privilege that was for us as a team and the players that were in that. I must admit, buddy, it was a wonderful day, and I still have the trophy. So that will be an annual competition now between us and the Gents of England that we are now, and the Brigade of the Gurkhas, and we're looking forward to playing that fixture later this year. I mean, buddy, how many? I mean, I have memories of when I arrived. You know, I think there was 35 players there, and I think they were doing push-ups as a warm-up. You know, ready to play.
Maybe that was the team's first proper match, and they've heard so much about Lord Taverners' strength and like who are like playing in that team. So basically, getting prepared.
Fantastic.
No, it's like getting warm up, and like I said on the day, like we haven't had proper sessions. So now after that match, and it's like obviously speaking to you and the players from Lord Taverners, we learned there are so many like other things we need to learn as a team, preparing for a tournament and actually going into the ground and performing the performance and after match. And it's like there are so many things to learn, which was I think a great privilege for us to play with you at that time. And at the same time, we learned so many things which we couldn't have experience if we had we continue to play a lower level of cricket.
Yeah, and I think I'm certainly planning to come and do some more coaching with yourselves when you're back over, here in the UK. But, I think it will be fantastic, and I can only see it going from strength to strength. I mean, just looking a little bit wider, buddy. I mean, Nepalese cricket has come a really long way recently. There's quite a few players now that pick up either quite lucrative T20 contracts or have been professionally contracted here in the UK. I mean, how do you see the future of cricket in Nepal itself and for the people of Nepal?
I think it's a great news as a whole, for the nation and for the young cricketers in Nepal. I remember back in 90s when I came to Nepal in 1988, I think. At that time, cricket was it wasn't the most sought after game at that time, and there were not many clubs, in the country. But from then, and I think country has moved. The cricket has gone, so far up, and now we see cricket being played everywhere in Nepal. And with the introduction of this club level cricket, and they have the league and a few nice stadiums, or not many stadiums, but nice cricket grounds scattered around Nepal. And the players at the international level, they start to perform as well. I think it's again to do with the exposure to high level cricket. They've been traveling abroad, they've been getting help from other nations, and cricket has grown basically. And then recently, when as far as I remember, Nepal appeared in first T20 qualifier in 2012. And then they played, I think, in 2014, which was a great news for everyone, all the cricketers in Nepal. They can actually see a country playing against another country. And since then, I think other countries, the IPL is a great platform as where Nepalese cricketers were signed. These famous cricketers from Nepal, like Paras Khadka, Sandeep Lamichhane, who's done really well in bowling, and was Sompal Kami. These all players, they have actually done so well in the international cricket, and I think they've also helped the Nepal to be recognized in the bigger world in the cricket arena, which is really good. And in my opinion, it will only go grow stronger, and with the help of other cricketing nations, it's just going to be really famous in Nepal. I see maybe in 4 or 5 years' time, if these youngsters continue to participate in big matches, we will see successful cricketers in Nepal who will be representing big teams in the county cricket in the UK. And Australia, they're playing in South Africa, in Southeast Asia. It's a great news. I think the Nepal cricket is heading in the right direction at the moment, but they will need that continuous support from outside world.
Yeah, no, I mean it really is a wonderful good news story, isn't it, of how cricket is taking over a nation, which is what we like to see as cricket fans. I mean, Buddy, just out of interest, have you seen any of the new stadium that's being built at the moment? Have you been able to see any of that?
So when there was one stadium getting built in Chitwan in Assam, I was there when they were constructing. It wasn't finished. It hasn't finished yet. I think there's some issues with the construction. But I think that will be the first proper stadium in Nepal. I'm not aware of any other stadium. There are a lot of good cricket grounds, but not a proper stadium. I think that it's a shared partnership with the government and locals and charity. Just like everybody is helping to build that stadium. Let's hope so we'll have that stadium up and running pretty soon.
Yeah. No, I think that's a wonderful initiative and a fantastic investment for the future of cricket and to cement the future of cricket in Nepal. I mean, just for me, I mean, now just bringing it back down to the Brigade and the Gurkhas Cricket Club, what's your hope for the future of that club? I mean, you've spent a phenomenal amount of your energy setting it up, getting it live, and I know there are a large population of Gurkhas here in the UK. I mean, what's your hope for this side?
I think, Callum, as I said, the intent was to keep this cricket going in the Brigade of Gurkhas, and although I'll be retiring a few more years, but I will try my level best to keep engaged with the team. in as like any form. But what I have done so far, obviously, you have played a big role in this. I must acknowledge your support. You connected me with the MCC, now we have the annual fixtures going on with the MCC as well. And as you know, we have plan, which I will cover in a bit. But that has helped us to establish strong connection with the wider public cricket. And which will definitely help us to grow stronger. As a result of that, now I have a squad of, in my book, more than 45-50 players who are willing to come and train with us. And so this AGM in summer, you will see a lot of players, although they will not be able to play every single match, but we will try to give them experience in one or two matches. The idea is to, in this squad, I have included the youngest the players who recently joined. They're from last year as well. Two dinosaurs like me, and in the middle. So we have all ages of cricketers in the brigade. So and then I am growing as handpicked personnel who I see managing this team in the future. So there is always, someone who will be taking in charge of the team and taking this team forward. I personally believe that this team will stay here for a very, very long time, and we will only grow stronger. I'm hoping, and I'm sure all the hierarchies, the commanders in the Brigade of Gurkhas, they are behind us, and I don't see any reason we shouldn't succeed.
No, and that's fantastic. Right then, buddy. So as with all of our special guests, we have a few quick-fire questions for you. So here we go. So what's your favourite ground?
Rosnara Cricket Club, Delhi.
Favourite player?
Sachin Tendulkar.
I knew you were going to say that as well. I thought it's going to be Sachin, isn't it? Favourite umpire?
Oh, Dickie Bird. Did I say that?
Yeah, Dickie Bird's a good one. What's your highest score to date?
My highest
cricket score, your batting score?
Oh, maybe, I can't remember. That was like a long time ago, 140 odd. I remember. I don't know what happened that day. Normally I finish in 50, 60 or maximum 80.
We've had 40, 50, 60, 70 and 80 there, buddy. It's creeping up.
It depends. It depends.
And what would you consider your greatest achievement on a cricket pitch?
I think managing people, and enjoying the moment when I'm in the pitch.
Brilliant. Love that. So we finished all of our guest interviews with one question, which is what is the single most important value of cricket to you, buddy?
It's a discipline. I know every single sports it's got own discipline, but cricket it demands so many things, from fitness to the focus, the team effort, the responsibility, everything. So it's just demands, and that's very strict discipline while you are out, not only in the pitch, but when you're outside the pitch as well. So that's why I think it's discipline inside.
No, I like that. I like that way of looking at it. It's great. And for those viewers here, you've heard that from a Gurkha major. So it's important. Discipline is very important. I mean, buddy, for me, this has been a really humbling experience. It is a true honour to play cricket alongside you, and I can't thank you enough for your time. And I'm really looking forward to catching up with you later in the summer.
Absolutely, thank you so much, Callum. And we are looking forward to play with you again pretty soon. And then we have got quite good fixtures lined up for this summer, including with the Lords and Commons Club as well, with Gents of England and MCC. So that's going to be a fantastic weekend. It's 2 weeks of cricket in the summer. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you for your help and everything. And thank you so much for this interview.
Yeah, sorry about that. My mute button. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that from Buddy. He's brilliant, and the work he's done with all those guys is fantastic. He's brought a real good group of people together, and they are nothing. If nothing else, they are really keen to learn how to play, and any help that anyone could give them is invaluable to them. It's a really, hopefully going to be a really big club, and as Buddy said, last for a really long time. I also did him a slight disservice. His top score was 140. I misheard him a little bit on the interview. So yeah, Buddy, well done, mate. 140 is a great knock. I've seen him get at least 70 or 80 a few times, so he certainly knows his stuff, and those days in India have helped him out. Just moving forward a little bit, as promised, I've got a couple of scores for you. Not only have I now got you some league cricket scores from ECB Premier League cricket scores, but we've also got the scores around the country. Obviously, lunch is looming. At 1 o'clock, lunch will be taken by all the first-class counties, so their games will stop. Moving into Group 1. Where we're at with this is now Derbyshire are now back into bat. They are currently 6 for no loss. They lead Worcestershire by 91 runs. They have 10 wickets remaining. I would imagine they're going to look to post a total for Worcestershire to try and chase. Having said that, Godalming has been retired, not out, so I'm not sure what's happened there. I would stay tuned probably with the UCB website or the BBC website. There was something coming out soon around what has happened to Billy Godalming. I hope he's okay. It doesn't always look great on the scorecard retired, so hopefully he's okay. Derbyshire leading Worcestershire by 91 runs with 10 wickets remaining. On to game 2, Essex versus Durham. This game has started still moving, although there has been a wicket just lost. Essex lead Durham by 108 runs with 2 wickets remaining. That partnership looks as though Walter was the batter to go. It has been, and obviously being number 5 in the order, he was the main batter for the remainder of this innings. He needed to work with the tail, the likes of Allison and Cook. So now that Durham have got him out, I'd imagine they're closing in towards a victory. Allison's still there on 29 not out of 78 balls. Walter ending up with 77. Bold cast, caught pointer. I'm sure he would have hoped to have got a few more up there, but it's still a great effort. I mean, he's got him and Lawrence are the only two really to get above 40 in that card, and I'm sure Essex will be quite disappointed with how they've set that game up. Moving on to game 3, Nottinghamshire versus Warwickshire. Nottinghamshire are 174 for 4. They haven't lost any wickets since we last spoke. James has moved on to 27 not out of 66 balls. Mullaney has moved on to 10 not out of 45 balls. Sorry. Let's have a look. Danny Briggs is now bowling. Their new signing for Warwickshire from Hampshire, I believe, or Sussex. I think he's played a lot of cricket. Sussex, he played a lot of cricket for, didn't he, down on the south coast, so that's quite a big move for him. Moving into Group 2, Hampshire versus Middlesex. Hampshire, of course, declaring when we last had our roundup, so they've now put Middlesex back into bat. Middlesex needing 522 runs to win. They are currently 9 for no loss. It looks as though they've got through 2.5 overs of Mohamed Abbas, so that they'll probably be feeling a little bit better. Having said that, he'll still be fairly fresh, I would have thought. And it does look as a really big task maybe for Middlesex to bat 5 sessions to save this game, including getting through the next 15-minute period to lunch. Moving on to game 2 in Group 2. Since we last spoke, there has been a loss of a wicket. In fact, there's now been 2. Banton gone for 18 runs of 45 balls. Bold and Taylor caught Dent. And Bartlett has also just gone for naught off 1 ball and bowled by Goodman. and caught Bracy. This leaves Somerset leading Gloucestershire by 43 runs with 6 wickets remaining. And as we spoke about earlier, you know, if Gloucestershire, as they have now done, took another 2-3 quick wickets, I imagine Gloucestershire will be more than happy chasing anything under 250. Currently, Somerset are only currently 43 ahead. You could argue that Gloucestershire are looking for their second win out of a really highly contested Group 2. Certainly, they wouldn't have been favourites going into this. The final game in Group 2 is Surrey versus Leicestershire. Since we last spoke, Ben Folkes got out on 87 of 230 balls, bowled by Klein. Smith is currently at the crease with Pope on 149 not out. I think he's really the key to their innings of how big a lead Surrey get over Leicestershire. Surrey trail Leicestershire by 21 runs with 6 wickets remaining. And it's a good fight from Leicestershire, I suppose, to have got that breakthrough in that partnership and actually put the emphasis back on Surrey a little bit. They've got to really mean business to get at least a small lead, 100, maybe 120. And of course, Leicestershire will also be looking to just take some time out of the game. And force Surrey's hand a bit that they have to play some shots. They need to get a score on the board to get Leicester back in, to get them out, so that ultimately they can get whatever's left, whatever runs they need in that 4th innings. Moving across to Group 3, Glamorgan versus Sussex. Since we last spoke, there's certainly been 1 wicket. I think there's actually, 1 wicket. Billy Root out for 8 by Crocombe, bowled Crocombe, LBW. LBW Crocombe, sorry about that, it's just bowled there. An interesting game. Glamorgan trail Sussex by 129 runs with 7 wickets remaining. You'd have to say Sussex are looking quite in the ascendancy at the moment. I can't see, Glamorgan need to get 130 runs just to get parity. And then after that, they're going to need at least, I would have thought, 200, 180, 200 plus to even challenge Sussex. So Sussex looking very, very strong. Moving on to game 2, Kent versus Yorkshire. Yorkshire currently 99 for 1. That 1 wicket, of course, being Curler Cadmore. They lead Kent by 213 runs with 19 wickets remaining. Lyth is 66 not out in the runs again. Of course, you might remember he did have a stint as England Test opening batter for a short while. Maybe he's putting in a claim again. He seems to be accumulating a lot of runs at the top of the order. And Loughton in with him on 21 not out of 67 balls. Could be a very interesting game, that, with Yorkshire leading Kent by 213 runs. They just basically will be looking to set a total with their 9 wickets remaining. And ultimately then it will be on to Kent and how long they can stay at the crease. On to our last game of the roundup, Lancashire versus Northamptonshire. Since we last spoke, there has been a wicket finally for Northamptonshire. Lancashire are now 144 for 3. Bahanan the wicket to full, bowled by Rob Keogh for 22 runs off 47 balls. Lancashire lead Northamptonshire by 272 runs with 7 wickets remaining. You'd think that, again, they probably will get to 400, 450, and they will either declare or be all out at that stage when it'll be Northamptonshire's turn. I can't see them having less than at least 3 sessions to bat Northamptonshire. They will have to bat a day, I think, to rescue this game. Right then, as we spoke about earlier, a few ECB Premier League scores for you. Something a little bit different, and I know that typically the ECB Premier Leagues aren't very well publicised nationally. And it's my hope that through this show we can start to recognise the accomplishments that some of these clubs make. So without further ado, I'm moving on to the Birmingham and District Premier Cricket League. Of course, they are the oldest cricket league in the country. At the moment, we've got Berkswell playing Smethwick. Berkswell are 5 for no loss. We currently have Walsall playing Kidderminster, and Walsall are currently 1 for 1. Nolan Dorridge, which is a very well-known club, currently playing Shrewsbury Cricket Club. Shrewsbury are into bat, and they are 6 for no loss. Mousley CC versus Barnt Green. Currently Barnt Green are 0-1, so they've lost an early wicket, and that certainly won't be the way they wanted to start their season. Ombersley against West Bromwich Dartmouth. Ombersley are into bat, they're currently 1 for no loss. And Shifnal CC versus Leamington CC. Shifnal currently being 3 for no loss. Moving across to their Premier League 2, they have 2 divisions, the Birmingham Premier League. Barnard's Green CC versus Wem. Wem are 17-1. Bridge North versus Kenilworth Wardens. Kenilworth Wardens are 26-2. Harborne versus Oastry. Oastry are 26-2. Himley versus Dorridge. Himley are currently 25-1. Pelsall versus Bromsgrove. Bromsgrove are currently 51 for no loss of 7 overs. Someone must be going hard there at the board. Wolverhampton versus Halesowen. Halesowen are 34 for no loss. Moving across to the East Anglian Premier League. It's another really big league and well known. It spans a very large area, I think, of Cambridgeshire, Suffolk, Norfolk. I'm tempted to say might have sides from the borders of Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire, maybe Essex. Can't quite remember, but it's a very big league. Currently games in progress. Burwell versus Exning versus Sawston and Babram. Sawston and Babram are 109-1 of 21 overs. Frinton-on-Sea versus Great Witchingham. Frinton-on-Sea are currently 107-2 of 23 overs. Horsford versus Bury St Edmunds. Horsford are currently 59-2 of 21 overs. Saffron Walden versus Mildenhall CC. Down in Suffolk, they are currently 104-2 of Mildenhall against Saffron Walden. Sudbury against Cambridge CC. Sudbury are currently 95-2. And Swarston versus Copdock and Old Ipswich CC. They are currently 89-5 against Swarston. So there's a couple just to give you a flavour of what we'll be looking to do later in the programme, later into the year when more of the Premier League start. They sort of start staggered times. I know the Northamptonshire Premier League isn't starting until the 24th of April, so there's still a couple more weekends till all those fixtures begin. Right, I've got a new addition I think that this week that people might enjoy, and what I would really like to see is a little bit of feedback, a little bit of, what do you think? I'm going to do my match predictions for lunchtime day 3, just going into it, and I'll just have a quick look through here about where I think the games are at. And I'll make sure that if I'm wrong, I'll have to be culprit, be reminded next week. So Derbyshire versus Worcestershire, I see that game becoming a draw. Essex versus Durham, I see a Durham win quite comfortably. I don't see Essex getting back into that game unless something meteoric happens. I guess it'd have to be a big top order collapse. They're currently 113 runs ahead. Well, you never know, do you? You just never know. That's the great thing about cricket. But I'm going to go put my stake in the ground and go Durham win. Nottinghamshire versus Warwickshire. I think that could well become a draw. Hampshire versus Middlesex. I've got a feeling that Hampshire will win that one. Somerset, especially having that over 500 lead. Middlesex, bowling attacker Carl Abbott, Mohammed Abbas. That's going to be really tough going. Somerset versus Gloucestershire. I probably see that Gloucester are going to win that one. That's where I'll put my stake in the stand there. Surrey versus Leicestershire. I'm going to go with a draw. I'm going to give Leicestershire a chance. I reckon they could do it down at the Oval. If it's nice and flat, and they can get a good opening partnership like they did last time. I reckon there'll be a draw. Glamorgan versus Sussex. Quite interesting. Glamorgan still trailing, aren't they? They're still trailing Sussex with 7 wickets remaining. So I would have thought that's going to be a Sussex win. Kent versus Yorkshire. Yeah, I just wonder whether Yorkshire will leave themselves enough time to get Kent out. I mean, Kent have a very strong batting lineup. They have the capability to bat a really long time, especially the top order, and with the engine room of the likes of Darren Stevens. I'm going to go controversial. I'm going to go draw. I think Yorkshire should get over the line, but I don't think they will. And Lancashire versus Northamptonshire. Well, ever optimistic, of course, being a Northamptonshire fan. Although Lancashire are in the ascendancy, having said that, one half of my family are from Lancashire, so technically I shouldn't be able to lose. But I'm going with Northamptonshire. I'm going to say that with a draw, that we get a monumental back-end score. I do know the pitch is now spinning at Old Trafford. Parkinson looked really threatening in the first innings. I have to go draw. I'd never be allowed back into the office, so we're going to go with draw, and that is my predictions. So I predict a draw between Derbyshire and Worcestershire, a Durham win against Essex, a draw between Nottinghamshire and Warwickshire, a Hampshire win against Middlesex, a Gloucester win against Somerset, a draw between Surrey and Leicester, a win for Sussex over at Glamorgan, a draw between Kent and Yorkshire, and a draw between Lancashire and Northamptonshire. And that is my predictions for this week. We shall see how they turn out, and hopefully you'll be following cricket live and enjoying following it, and hopefully catching me out a couple of times. And like you said, it'd be great to hear from you. So it's cricket@berrco.co.uk, and you can make contact with us anytime. Right, you thought I'd forgotten him, but I haven't. Here he is, George Fox, our resident kit expert, with a few different ideas for you. It's a really interesting one, this one, and one that, really, again, we would like people to comment and to engage with us on it, because most of the stuff that you'll think of, George can actually make. That's why he's our kit expert. So I really hope you enjoy this. And here he is. I spoke to him earlier in the week, and he's doing well. Here you go. Hi, I'm here with George Fox, our resident kit expert. George, how are we doing?
I'm very good, Callum. It's slightly chilly today, but not too bad. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. So George, today, what are we going to be looking at?
Today, we've got an interesting topic. If you could design any piece of equipment for cricket, what would it be? Something that maybe doesn't exist at all, or something that maybe does exist in a different field of sport or activity that you think that'd be really useful in cricket. I think there's quite a few items that I would love to either magic out of thin air or bring across from somewhere else. And everyone's got something, and I'd like to find out what those things are. So if I get the ball rolling with a few ideas, hopefully some people are going to go, that's a rubbish idea. I've got a much better idea. And then they'll, suggest it. So hopefully we can start a bit of chat.
Nice. I mean, I'd go for a wider bat. It's probably my first recommendation.
I think there's online there's an image of a bat that was brought out that was deemed completely illegal because it was wider than the stumps.
That sounds right.
Black and white photo. I bet we could find that and put that up. That would be cool.
Yeah, it sounds about right to me. I think I like that. It's already too heavily in favour of the bowlers these days, so the batters need all the help they can get.
Brilliant. This is one that I have a lot of personal beef with. Toe guards. So as an opening batter, I believe you were also an opening batter. Yeah. Get a lot of fast balls. The ball's new. The ball's, bowler's got a lot of energy. He wants to prove a point and he wants to break your toes. And also netting as well, toe guards. For some reason, there's also a trend at the moment to take running shoes and spike them up and use them in cricket. And I've got more protection from a cricket ball, probably in my slippers. I'm old, so I can have slippers. Thank you very much. Than in the average cricket shoe. They don't seem to take into account the fact that an 80-mile-an-hour Yorker will probably break a lot of your toes. And in professional cricket, this is actually a major problem. I think every single county team will have at least one player who's out for a period of time because of broken toes. If you take into account their salary, that's quite a lot of money due to the fact that he could have been wearing a toe guard. And maybe it doesn't need to be a steel one. We're not on a site somewhere, but just something that's a bit better than nothing. Even a little removable one that you could sneak into these trainers would probably work quite well. So there's going to be an ergonomic challenge there. But that's definitely, that would kick it off for me. That would be number one.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I'm one of those guilty parties with spiked up trainers, so I feel a bit hypocritical now.
So that would definitely get the ball rolling. The second one is going back to net training. The protective equipment that we tend to wear seems to be the same, whether it's match play or whether it's practice. If you look at rugby and you're doing sort of ruck training, whatever it may be, there's all sorts of, amounts, there's all different types of body armor that people wear, because they're doing something that they know there's going to be a high risk of impact. They're coming into each other. It's like watching a car crash when you see like high level rugby, and they're doing it again and again and again. So they're going to pad up because they're training for, the repetition of the procedure rather than, in a game situation. So let's say you're a, sort of 12, 13-year-old kid, you're practicing against a short ball. It's a bit quick. It's coming up at you. Like a lot of the time, they're not even wearing an arm guard. But what about having an extra large chest guard or additional padding for that short ball, so that you're doing it again and again and again, because you're trying to get that sort of reflex or muscle memory working. That would be, again, I've never seen anything specifically for that purpose, and it exists in other sports. You get it in baseball, and obviously you can custom make that sort of thing. But again, off the shelf short ball training, coaching aids, I don't know, maybe something like that would be quite useful.
The way that you say you can make something like that. You can, George. Most people can't.
Well, other protective brands are available, of course. But yeah, it is something that has been made in the past, and it's always just surprised me, because injuries tend to happen a lot in training, because either it's just a repetition, you're tired, you're bored, you're thinking of something else. In a match, you've got the adrenaline, you're absolutely on it. You're going, oh, come on, you're waiting for it, rather than, like, oh yeah, it's gotta, do this for 20 minutes. Then, one comes up a bit sharp and catches you. So that'd be another thing. So I'm looking down because I have done a little bit of research. Here's one, something to stop the stumps. Well, so on a regular grass pitch, when someone, like the batsman dives and it's a dramatic thing and the stumps are just completely heaved over, and you just think, oh yeah, well done, that's just completely ruined it. And they're never quite the same again. There's kind of on a bit of a wonk, you try and get it straight, and does that again, you just think, oh, that, and a bit of sand, a bit of sawdust, you put it in and it does that. And something to just, how can you do a better job of keeping stumps up nice and straight on the average sort of club pitch, where the ground staff hasn't maybe been able to give it the amount of time or attention that it can be. I'm all in favour of wonky stumps as a batsman, especially if they go in a bit.
Yep.
But even so, I just wonder if there's something that could be done with that, like better, deeper root structure. I don't know, but that's something that gets me.
Might be something to do with even this more around the stumps. Do you create a longer spike on the stump? Like a small metal spike off the wood to actually let it go further into the ground easily, so
Yes.
that then you can get it back right with maybe a gauge at the top that you just put on top and pull it together, and that's it. Off you go.
I think stumps, that could end up being a massive topic, but also maybe for a lot of people a boring topic. I don't know. Feedback. Let us know your thoughts. Could go into that. There's all sorts. I know in Australia you've got the solid metal ones that are great, but they can damage the ball. It's an interesting topic. I've always got memories of like when there's always that net every club's got that's got a set of spring-loaded stumps where one of them's just permanently just like, nah, can't be bothered today. I'm just going to stay down.
Smashed to pieces.
Yes.
Normally.
Everyone's making out that it was them when they were bowling, but it really isn't. It's just some kid had an angry fit and smashed it with their bat. So here's one that can actually directly translate, and I'm always surprised how few people do it, and I don't know if it's an ego thing or because people are worried about getting a bit of jip, but shin guards when you're fielding. So you always talk, put the long barrier down, here you go, ball's coming in, and it just absolutely thumps you right on the bony bit of the knee. I don't care about the macho side of things, or people grinning and bearing it. That's really painful. It really hurts, and then you have to get up and run, and it's just hit you on the knee. And it really hurts. I would Yeah,
there's an old school method for that, George, which I was told when I was a kid, and I'm sure you may well have been told too, which was to use your hands.
Yeah, I try to, but it keeps moving. That's the problem.
I once got hit in the shin, and yeah, doesn't it?
The amount of times everyone's always seen someone when they, runs on, goes down to face the ball, and at the last second it hits something, and it gets it. But I was going to stop it, but it moved. Again, I know reactions, timing. I'm getting worse. I was never very good in the first place. But I think just a pair of shin guards that's for hockey, from football, something like that. It's actually quite a useful bit of kit just to have in your bag. And I don't know, is it because in the locker room do people give you a bit of jip if you're putting them on? Like, I don't know. It's a funny sport. Oh, here's a good one. So wicket keepers. Wicket keeper gloves have always puzzled me, because it's like solid leather back to back. You get your little finger ends. What stops? There's nothing really to stop the fingers from bending back. And I've got a couple of friends who keep, whether it's on the pro circuit and I'm sort of making stuff for them, or just people who've been around for a long time. And there's a famous picture. You're going to have to find this picture online and post it, of an ex-international keeper. He's putting his hand up like that, and it's just like completely destroyed. And you think, is there something that can help do a better job, like some gloves that don't bend all the way backwards? Maybe, I don't know, you can get like sort of, think about in nature, like when you get, what are those beetles called? They get all the sections. An armadillo, something? Yeah, anyway. There's some sort of structure that maybe could be created so you can go forwards, but you can't go backwards, so that it can't go past a certain point. It's not so that you can increase the chance of catching. You don't want to make it unfair. You don't want the equivalent of like a super glue palm that just, like a Velcro ball, like those sort of Christmas kits you get when everyone's bored. But something, the keepers have a hard time in the first place, their knees and anyway. So yeah, there's another one. And last one I've thought on is straps for your pads. They never fit when I was a kid. I'm a scrawny little thing when I still am now. And you put your batting pads on, you do it up nice and tight, and you've got about a metre of strap just flapping around. You think, what am I going to do with that? So sort of wrap it round again or tie it. And the amount of times people have brought me a pair of pads and they say, can you adjust these pads for me? And I say, yeah, put them on, and mark with a thing. And the Velcro bit isn't anywhere near where they want it to be. And you've had to, so I'll cut the Velcro off, cut off the excess, re-sew so it's, nice and correct for them. Is there a better way of doing that, perhaps? Again, I'm going to do a shameless push. That's why, for example, on the Stretton Fox, other brands are available, thigh pads. It's a detachable strap, so you fit it anywhere. So it doesn't matter if you're skinny. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter. You put it on exactly where you want it. Surely that could be done for batting pads as well. You can have like a system where, it's attached on one side and you have the loop on the other side, and you thread through and back. Why don't you have two loops and a separate piece that attaches, that goes through back on itself? So it's nice and tight, and then that way there's no excess flapping around. Because also if the ball catches that, sometimes people hear that nick and it's just annoying, gets in the way. Or when you're running, you catch the loose bit and it undoes the pad, and you're halfway down the crease, so suddenly your pad's just doing this on your leg, and you're like, and it all gets a bit awkward and embarrassing, and it's not quite the sort of Pinterest-worthy, Instagrammable, cricket game that you were imagining. It's just chaos. All for a simple solution that could have been found with a bit of shorter Velcro. I don't know.
I love that. I mean, you've probably just taught yourself into sorting out my pad straps, because they're always too long. So they'll be coming your way pretty soon.
Yeah. You wake up one day with all these pads lined up, saying, "Yeah, just here, please, mate." Yeah. They are.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that if anyone does have any questions for George or wants to push back at what George has said, we want the bad with the good. It's at cricket@berrco.co.uk, and it's on the website berrco.co.uk. So get looking and email in. I think to finish, George, you got a bit of a sort of a true or false moment for us. What have you got for us this week?
Yes, I was thinking, what would be a fact about cricket equipment that may or may not be true? See what you think. Answers on a postcard or just email. So the first one is that cricket balls, obviously the inside, the centre is made out of cork. Originally, those cork centres used to be cubes, and you would actually bind them so tight that it would eventually become the ball that you would then encase in the leather. So that's my first one. So cricket balls centres used to be cubes rather than balls. Is that true or false?
Like it, like that. George, great to see you this week. You take care, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Thank you, Callum. Take care.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that there from George. A few ideas, certainly a few frustrations he's had over the years, and understandably, I guess, when you listen to his reasoning around why kit is designed and sort of how it should be designed and what's the thinking behind what you're actually looking for to use the kit for, the function of the kit. As we said in there, please feel free to email in at cricket@berrco.co.uk. Should be just along the bottom of the screen for you. And just to recap, he spoke about a toe guard, stump technology, shin pads, wicket keeping gloves, helping you to stop your fingers from bending back, and he finished up with pad straps. I must admit mine are always way too long, so it is nice to be able to actually take them off both ends and put them where you want, so they sort of self-stick to each other, and that way it does create that much more rounded support. As we move towards the end of the show, I just had a quick look again around the Premier Leagues. So just going back to the Birmingham and District League, we've got Berkswell against Smethwick, and Berkswell are now 61 for 1. Kidderminster versus Walsall, and Walsall are now 75 for 5. So it's probably not going to be the best day for them at the moment. A bit of early season rust, I would imagine, because no one's been able to really train. Nolan Dorridge against Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury are currently 74 for 3. Mousley versus Barnt Green. Barnt Green are 52 for 2. Ombersley versus West Bromwich Dartmouth. Ombersley are 39 for no loss. And Schnifnell against Leamington are 31 for 5. So they look like they're having a really tough time of 14 overs. Moving into Birmingham District Premier Division 2, Barnard's Green against Wem. Wem are 55 for 4. Another team having a tough day. Bridge North versus Kenilworth Wardens, 71 for 4. Harborne versus Oestry, 66 for 2. Himley versus Dorridge. Himley are 69 for 1. Pelsall against Bromsgrove. Bromsgrove are 106 for 3. Wolverhampton versus Halsdown, 87 for none. Moving across to the East Anglian Premier League, Burwell versus Exning against Sawston and Barbarham. Sawston are 162 for 1. Frinton-on-Sea versus Great Witchingham. Frinton-on-Sea 152 for 2. Horsford versus Bury St Edmunds. Horsford are 93 for 5 of 32 overs. Saffron Walden versus Mildenhall. Mildenhall are 125 for 5 of 27 overs. Sudbury versus Cambridge are 165 for 3 of 39 overs. And Swarston versus Copdock and Old Ipswich. Copdock are 116 for 7 of 28. So looking like some decent matchups, a bit of early season rust for the batters or some good bowling. It's always normally a bit tougher earlier on for the batters. The wickets are a little bit greener and a bit wetter, and obviously you've not really got into your rhythm, especially when you haven't had a winter. Just moving to the lunchtime scores around the country. So we have Derbyshire versus Worcestershire. Derbyshire lead Worcestershire by 108 runs with 10 wickets remaining. Essex versus Durham. Essex lead Durham by 114 runs with 2 wickets remaining. Nottinghamshire versus Warwickshire. Nottinghamshire lead Warwickshire by 260 runs with 6 wickets remaining. Hampshire versus Middlesex. Middlesex need 505 runs to win. Somerset versus Gloucestershire. Somerset lead Gloucestershire by 50 runs with 6 wickets remaining. Surrey versus Leicestershire. Surrey trail Leicestershire by 12 runs with 6 wickets remaining. Glamorgan versus Sussex. Glamorgan trails Sussex by 115 runs with 7 wickets remaining. Kent versus Yorkshire. Yorkshire lead Kent by 222 runs with 8 wickets remaining. And Lancashire versus Northamptonshire. Lancashire lead Northamptonshire by 290 runs with 7 wickets remaining. All of these games can be followed on their own first class streams. If you go onto the First Class County web pages, you'll be able to find the match centres and watch them live. And those streams are excellent. They have live BBC radio commentary over them, so they are really high quality, and they're no longer just one camera angle, they're now multi-camera angles. Again, as I said in my first show, the First Class Counties have put a massive amount of effort and resource into creating the best product they could to show you the cricket, especially whilst we're still behind closed doors. Please do follow it. The viewing figures really do make a difference for them, and they will only allow them to invest further in that product. All that really leaves me for is, thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you've enjoyed what we've got. We've got plenty more for you next week, and we're at the same time, same place, so we'll be at 10:30 a.m, Facebook Live next Saturday, and I really look forward to seeing you there. You take care.